Good morning, councillors, executive, members of the public, anybody online. Very warm welcome to the ordinary meeting of this council on 25th of August 2022, and I'd like to declare the meeting open. Councillors, it is a custom of this council for the next two items to be upstanding, so if I may, I'd like to ask you to be upstanding for Councillors' Law, Acknowledgement of the Traditional Custodians.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor CEO. On behalf of Council, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the Sunshine Coast local government area, the Gabi Gabi Nation, where we are gathered today, and the Diddillibah Nation of the southern hinterland area. I pay my respects to the ancestors of this land, to their spirit and their legacy. The foundations laid by these ancestors, the traditional owners, give us strength, inspiration and courage today and for all future generations to create a better place where all people are equal. As we reflect on the past, we must walk together, listen carefully to one another, and allow truth-telling to heal our country and heal our people. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and honour the important role of all First Nations people have in shaping the future of the Sunshine Coast. Together, we are stronger.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillors, stay upstanding, for we now have Pastor Lawrence Sayuli from the Nambour Christian Church to read a prayer. Welcome. Welcome, Lawrence.
Good morning. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, I do acknowledge this morning that you are the God of our great nation, Australia. You are the God of our state, and you certainly are the God of our region of the Sunshine Coast. Lord, we are so blessed, Lord Jesus, to be living in this country and living in the Sunshine Coast. And Lord, the Bible tells us that all authorities have been appointed by you. So I pray for every councillor here today who have been appointed by you through the people they represent. I do pray wisdom upon each of them to make right decisions that will bless the Sunshine Coast both economically and spiritually. So give them tremendous wisdom and insight, tremendous insight into every challenge they face as our representative. To know which challenge that needs council respond, and to know which challenge, Lord God, that needs a spiritual response. I pray the blessings of Jesus upon our mayor, your blessings upon every councillor here, the blessings of the Lord upon all of our council workers, from the CEO to the managers and the amazing staff of our council. Pray, Lord Jesus, your protection upon their families, your protection upon their spouses, their children and grandchildren from anything that will either harm them physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Pray the blessings of Jesus over every town and every community here in the coast. Your blessing upon every business, every church, every school, every family, and every person that calls the Sunshine Coast their home. And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please be seated, councillors. Thank you, Pastor Lawrence, for taking the trouble to be with us today. Councillors, I'd like to acknowledge the recent passing of Councillor Natoli's mother, Romilda Maria Angelica Natoli, and express our council's deepest condolences in sorrow to Councillor Natoli for his family on the loss of his mother. The sad news is I have to also now hand over the chair to Councillor Johnston to acknowledge the passing of a former employee.
Move? Or, no, I'm sorry. I'll come up here if you don't mind.
By all means.
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, I became aware, I was informed of the passing of a man who words are very difficult to describe, however I'll do my best. Max Poole was for quite a number of years the chief engineer and the Chief Town Planner for the Lansbury Shire Council. And during the 1960s, 70s and 80s, there were some amazing heads of department. On those days we referred to them as departmental heads, not as managers. And Max, unfortunately, is the last one to have passed. We've lost John Smith, who was the CEO, the Shire Clerk, Carmel Barr, who was the Deputy Shire Clerk, Cole Bayfield, who was the Chief Building and Health Officer, and Max, who, as a consultant for John Wilson and Partners, was the Town Planner and also the Chief Engineer for the Council. All of those people had a great deal to do with what Caloundra, Kawana, Pelican Waters and West, the old Caloundra area, or the old Lansbury Shire area, they had a great deal to do with what it is today. And Warren was saying to me that, you know, even today they often come across decisions that were made by those people or recommended by those people which are as good today as they were back then. And Max taught those people that were interested a lot about life and a lot about being a councillor, and I was fortunate to have been one of those people. He brought in the first, or he instigated the first town plan for those areas of the local authority outside of Caloundra and Kawana. Prior to 1981, there was no planning instrument in those areas. Consequently, in 1981, he encouraged the council to develop an interim development bylaw, and that was gazetted, and subsequently, as the town plan was brought down in, I think, 1985 or 86. I found the process of developing a town plan from scratch for an area that I and Councillor Gerrits represented very challenging, extremely interesting, and Max was an extremely capable man. He taught us all a great deal about town planning, associated matters such as constraint maps, soil types, vegetation types, viable agricultural land, and why some land was more susceptible to landslip than others. He also taught me personally a great deal about road maintenance, construction, road machinery, bridge construction, drainage, flood levels, sewage and water reticulation treatment, pumping and storage. Or I should say sewage, not sewage, although sewage is what results. Max's planning reports were amazingly short, to the point, and always followed a very simple but to many invisible formula. 1. Does the proposed use conform with the town plan? 2. Are there any objections, and how valid are those objections? 3. If the proposed use conforms with the town plan, will approval cause any problems? And if yes, are there engineering or other solutions which will eliminate or reduce the problem to an acceptable standard? And 5, are there any other matters relating to the matter that require consideration? Finally, his report would either recommend approval or decline approval. The reasons for his recommendation were drawn from either from the earlier part of his report, and typically the report, which many of us find hard to believe these days, were between 1 and 2 pages, compared to today's town plan recommendations because of extra regulation, etc., which can often be up to 100 pages in length. Despite or perhaps of, because his reports were so concise and to the point, his recommendations were rarely challenged. In fact, he was an expert, a fantastic expert in court when we were taken on, and I still don't think he was ever rolled in court. I think every time he went to court, his recommendations were approved by the court. The town plan preparation took 4 years of seemingly endless days of discussion, as well as endless nights, weekends of reading, not just by the council officers, but by the councillors. And I just want to relate this little story. As Max said, it was one of the most humorous times he'd ever had in his career. He said to me after this meeting, he said, look, you know how we just had a discussion with Arthur Mule, and Arthur Mule was the Director of Local Government Planning for Queensland, and he came up to talk to us about our town plan. And I said, yeah. He said, there's a few tense and humorous moments that come to mind. At that meeting, he said, there was discussion about the correct zone in which to allow ladies of the night to operate. Should it become legal? Because there was sort of some discussion in government circles that they were going to legalise that occupation. And several suggestions were bandied about, including local business, light industry, special purposes. And after examination, none of these zones seemed appropriate. And Arthur Mule, the director, encouraged us to suggest how this could be regulated, because we were the first local authority that was having a town plan review. After some discussion, I suggested creating a new zone. Arthur fixed his eyes upon me, asked me to tell him what I had in mind, and my reply was we could call it an erogenous zone, which was greeted with a great deal of mirth but did not make it into the town plan. Max later told me that my suggestion was the highlight of his career. Max also, apart from town planning, brought in a whole host of things, water reticulation for the railway towns, sewage in Maloney, and some earlier stuff in Caloundra and Kawana. And there was a racecourse development. He had his fingers on so many things, but he had a very simple philosophy in life. First came family, next came work, and thirdly, you had fun. And he wasn't a person who laughed and joked a lot, although he did enjoy a bit of a laugh and a giggle from time to time. He enjoyed working with people who worked hard, were honest, intelligent, and challenged him respectfully. And I'd just like to pay tribute to a man who had a great deal to do with the development of this part of the Sunshine Coast into what it is today. He used a lot of foresight, a lot of energy. Sadly, in 1984, he returned to private consultancy, and from that, council then went and engaged their own town planners instead of a consultant planner. And Jeff Fenton took over from him, but Jeff had been tutored by him and followed basically the same very simple rules as far as engineering is concerned that Max did. So, to a man who loved his family, loved playing squash with a few people, and also loved sailing, I would like to pay tribute to Max. It is sad that in the latter years of his life, he suffered a very debilitating illness where he was virtually non-verbal for some years. So I'd just like everybody to know that at least now, the man that I knew, and appreciate what he achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson, for obviously what is a heartfelt acknowledgement, and for the backstory for Caloundra City Council. We appreciate it. Councillors, now like to record attendance and the leave of absence, and like to acknowledge Councillor Dixon on Teams. Welcome, Councillor Dixon. And just note that Councillor Mayor Jameson is an apology and Councillor O'Prey does have a leave of absence. No. Oh, no. Okay, so could somebody move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 28th of July 2022 be received and confirmed? Thank you. Councillor Natoli moves, seconded. Councillor Ted Hungerford, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Yes, thank you. There are no mayoral minutes for item 5. We move on to item 6, informing of conflicts of interest. So, councillors, now I remind you of the requirements of Chapter 5B of the Local Government Regulation of 2012, which sets out how councillors' conflicts of interest are managed in local government matters. These requirements apply as to how we deal with such matters at this meeting. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So, 6.1, 6.2, there are no prescribed declarable conflicts of interest at this point. We'll move on to a procedural motion. And councillors, I'm sure that you're now aware that we'd like council to allow the introduction of a new item of business into the agenda for the ordinary meeting on Thursday the 25th of August 2022, namely item 8.9. Council of Mayors, South East Queensland proposed delegation to North America. And Councillor Cox, you're going to move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Landsberg. And councillors, there's no discussion on it. It's just whether it is received into the agenda on 8.9. So can I ask for a vote on that? All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We'll get to a non-con later. I don't believe there's any presentations or council reports. Item 7. Correct? No. So we'll move on to our first item proper, which is 8.1, which is the quarterly progress report for quarter 4 of 2021-22. And I'd like to call on the CEO to present that report.
Good morning, and through you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, councillors. Good morning, Councillor Dixon online. We've reached quarter 4 already this year, and as always, we have a lot of great things to talk to you about in the last quarter that we've been through. I would like to thank all of the people that make up council, all of our staff who work so hard every year to achieve our operational plan. And as you're aware, this year has presented challenges as we have had the last couple of years. So I really thank the people who are part of the organisation who have presented this. The quarter 4 report is our last quarterly progress report for the delivery of our operational plan for 2021 and 2022. And this provides us the perfect opportunity to reflect on the last 12 months, including what we've achieved on behalf of our community and some of the challenges we've had to adapt to along the way. These challenges have included supply chain constraints with longer lead times on many goods and services, increased costs of labour and materials, and a number of significant adverse weather events. Through all of this, our people, our community and our local businesses have unfailingly worked together to advance the interests of our region as we continue on our path to be Australia's most sustainable region, healthy, smart and creative. I'm really proud of the progress we've made towards our vision. This year we've delivered over 80% of our operational plan activities, including 85% of the $290 million capital works program. And whilst that number might not seem, clearly it's not 100%, but in light of the conversation I just had about the constraints that we've had, that is an amazing number to achieve for this full year. Through quarter 4, there have been some significant milestones. Our Sunshine Coast achieving international recognition as our UNESCO Biosphere Reserve on the 16th of June 2022, joining a global network of over 700 biosphere reserves and becoming just the 5th in Australia. This recognition is the result of over 6 years of hard work, dedication, collaboration and consultation, fulfilling on a commitment made by our Mayor in 2016 on behalf of our Sunshine Coast community. The opportunity to be part of a significant global program provides us with many new and exciting possibilities for the future to strengthen our value proposition as we advance the development of our region in a sustainability context. The Northern Parkland at Diddillibah was also opened in June, just in time for the school holidays. This is the first stage of the Diddillibah Foreshore Revitalisation Project that will increase beachfront parkland by 40% over the coming years. A key focus in the design of the parkland has been to improve accessibility for all members of our community so that everyone can enjoy the new boardwalk, the playground and the new public amenities. The town of Udlow has also been revitalised with the improvements to Rosebed Street, completed in April 2022, providing a more appealing and safer walkable environment. The main thoroughfare received a green injection to cool and beautify the urban environment, upgraded pedestrian crossings and a realignment of car parks. Moving to Nambour, the Nambour Aquatic Centre Splash Park is also getting ready for next summer season with 2 new adventure slides that are way too tall for me to go on them, 60 metres and 67 metres, as well as 44 new car parks being constructed. And the Splash Park is expected to officially open very soon. Our Sunshine Coast has also received recognition as a top 7 intelligent community for the 3rd time by New York-based Intelligent Community Forum. The award recognises our region as a connected and smart community with a thriving innovation ecosystem. Underpinning this recognition has been the future-focused and enabling investments which council has made in infrastructure like our international submarine cable network and nurturing the development and growth of talent and skills which will support the growing digital sophistication, ideas generation and connectivity that will make the Sunshine Coast truly nation-leading. Being smarter about how we move around is a key element of a sustainable region. In May 2022, Council launched Think Change, a travel behaviour change program which is designed to help our community make small changes to their travel habits to reduce congestion, improve our lifestyle and help our environment. The program seeks to encourage everyone in the Sunshine Coast to consider ways to reduce our car usage and the distance travelled in car, considering taking public transport or even replacing short car trips with walking, scooting or cycling. Finally, as one financial year closes and another begins, on the 23rd of June 2022, Council adopted its $847 million 22-23 budget. This budget seeks to deliver a stronger, better and sustainable Sunshine Coast with a focus on local first, local communities, our local environment and local business. I encourage everyone who may be listening or watching today to head to Council's website to find out more about how our budgets benefit everyone in advancing our healthy, smart and creative region. I'll now invite our group executives to come forward to speak about their respective responsibilities to progress our corporate plan goals, starting with Bill Hadrill, who is the Group Executive of LANA. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through the Acting Mayor. Certainly another busy quarter was quarter 4 for the Environment and Livability portfolio of Council. I think of note to start with, we saw the distribution of some 45,000 additional garden organics bins to our community, just in time for the commencement of the expanded green waste service which kicked off in early July. That took our number to some 85,000 plus garden organics bins in circulation across the Sunshine Coast. Collecting garden organics, removing that waste from our landfill, reducing the emissions and the future emissions that they will produce, and importantly generating a source of mulch which can be used on our public and private parks and gardens across the Sunshine Coast. During the quarter, Council also made a fairly significant land acquisition. $9.5 million was spent on 214 hectares of land in Rainforest Drive, Merredin Plains. That was a part of Council's current program of land acquisitions for both conservation and recreation activities within the area known as the Lower Mooloolah River Green Space, an emerging area of increasing importance for conservation and recreation activities and pursuits both for our current and future residents of the Sunshine Coast. Turning to the rural lands across the Sunshine Coast, we're really pleased to have prepared and released the new Rural Landowner Handbook with some 6,500 copies of that handbook distributed to rural landowners. Contains a raft of information to support landowners, both existing and new to the game, in managing their rural properties, including information around weeds, vegetation clearance, bushfire management, earthworks, on-site disposal and water support. It really is a fabulous one-stop shop for landowners to see what support is available to them. It's been wet for the last couple of years, but we can't forget about fire management activities. And as part of our proactive bushfire management program, in Q4, Council commenced its program of seasonal burns and our program of about 13 sites across the coast. We were able to deliver a number of those up until the end of the financial year, and you would see a bit of smoke in the air over recent months as we continue the rollout of that important program. Talking of rain, we did have a few effects across the coast in Q4 as a result of the wet season earlier in the year, and we're pleased to say that we're able to complete the emergency repair works on the Moffat Beach seawall, a section of seawall there of about 80 metres in length, which partially collapsed and subsided as a result of the wet weather event earlier in the year. The importance of those emergency works was to make safe and to provide us the time to carefully design and put in place a longer-term repair solution, including repairs to some park infrastructure and beach access areas which are in and around that 80-metre section of the rock wall itself. While on coastal hazards and the impact on our shoreline, in the quarter, Council also commenced the coastal protection works, which was the stage 2 of the Maritchi-Groinfield renewal project. That project is still underway, and it's got a real focus and intent there on shielding the cotton tree foreshore from the current and future impacts of climate change and coastal erosion processes. Again, from the coast to the hinterland, the work around the early planning and thinking around the establishment of the Sunshine Coast Ecological Park continues. So that's the 65-hectare area of land which sits just in behind the Mary Cairncross Reserve. 4 parcels of land which have been acquired by Council over the last number of years, and the planning is well underway now to develop and at a future point turn that into a community space for nature-based recreation, kids in nature, and a whole raft of activities that will support both physical and mental health, both for our residents and visitors to the Sunshine Coast. And finally, probably worth drawing attention to, while we focus on fires, we focus on floods and a range of other emergency events. We have unfortunately in the past experienced oil spills on the coast, and unfortunately I suspect we will again in the future. But to proactively prepare for that, Council staff, volunteers and response partners participated in an oiled wildlife rescue program. So it was a training program provided by the Queensland Government, and that's to make sure that as a council and a community and a volunteers that we are prepared for and readily able to respond to any oil spill that might occur at a future point, so that we can positively and proactively support the wildlife that might be impacted by that event. Mr Acting Mayor, just a bit of a snapshot of a number of the activities that have occurred in the livability and environment portfolio in the final quarter, and I'd now like to hand over to Mr Grantley Switzer to talk about our resilient community.
Good morning, Acting Mayor and Councillors. I'm pleased to be here today to present the quarterly updates relating to the economy in some parts of our community. It was another big quarter for the Sunshine Coast economy with 441 jobs created and all supported this quarter. The economic impact of the local economy totaled $108 million for the quarter from major events and investment outcomes. More than 2,300 businesses accessed specialist advice and information for the quarter. One of Australia's leading manufacturers and suppliers of steel building products has shown its confidence in the Sunshine Coast, investing in a new $10 million facility in Bells Creek. Metro hope to see the current staff of 20 employees grow to 100 full-time positions at full capacity. Their commitment to the Sunshine Coast region is evident by keeping it local, enlisting Mark Cooler building design company Building Suncoast Green for the building design and local building company Carlu Constructions at Cunda Park for the construction of the $10 million facility. The Sunshine Coast Tech Industry Alliance was officially launched on the 8th of April to bring together industry and key organisations to increase the tech capability of our region and to ensure all of Sunshine Coast major industries are able to innovate and participate globally, utilising the Sunshine Coast International Broadband Network and the next DC S1 Edge Data Centre. Council also partnered with one of the region's key industry groups, the Food and Agribusiness Network, to support the Meet the Maker trade event in May 2020 with over 100 agribusinesses exhibiting their products to national and international buyers. To address the local skills shortage, Council, in collaboration with Visit Sunshine Coast and the Queensland Government, has developed the Gap Year Sunshine Coast initiative as a one-stop shop for making a gap year in the region a reality. Young people from the Sunshine Coast and from right across the country who have had their plans disrupted can take a gap year on the Sunshine Coast with job opportunities available at our tourism businesses to meet the growing visitor demand for Sunshine Coast holiday experiences. Further on the tourism front, additional funds were committed to Visit Sunshine Coast for the 22-23 financial year to include a tourism campaign in New Zealand to drive increased visitation to the Sunshine Coast. A draft hotel-specific investment prospectus has been developed to support opportunities for hotel attraction within the region and is out for community consultation at the minute. Council officers undertook a series of meetings with government agencies and key industry advisors in New Zealand in May 2022 to identify potential partnerships and trade and investment opportunities following the opening of the international borders between the two countries. Study Sunshine Coast has worked with UWork to launch the Sunshine Coast Jobs Platform, a dedicated Sunshine Coast student and graduate jobs platform hosted on the Sunshine Coast website. Study Sunshine Coast has also leveraged Council's partnership with Melbourne Storm to initiate a digital campaign during May and June to encourage Melbourne students to live, learn and kickstart their future on the Sunshine Coast. Council has worked to enhance the region's sporting capabilities by hosting the Sunshine Coast Symposium for the Disability Sports Australia National Conference in June 2022, headlined by former Olympian Kieran Perkins. The theme of the conference, Runway to Brisbane 2032, aimed to maximise participation for people with disabilities in sport on the pathway to the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The Sunshine Coast 2032 Legacy Community Reference Group was established in April, with champion representatives volunteering their time for many areas, including Olympians and Paralympians, First Nations, tourism, the community, disability, youth and education. This important group of volunteers will provide community advice to Council about local legacy outcomes and opportunities that should be pursued as part of the 2032 Games. Sunshine Coast Stadium attracted 8,500 patrons to the Midnight Oil concert in April 2022. At the same venue, training camps were hosted for Melbourne Storm, Sydney Roosters, Newcastle Knights, and as part of the Oceania Rugby Championships, the Australian Junior Wallabies held a training camp in June 2022. The top headliner act for the three-day Caloundra Music Festival were announced last quarter and includes Art v Science, Baker Boy, Missy Higgins and the Waifs and many more. The Family Friendly Festival is now in its 15th year and will again be held at Kings Beach Amphitheatre from September 30 to October 2. Leases have been awarded to SwimFit Sunshine Coast to operate the Cotton Tree Aquatic Centre and City Venue Management to operate the Caloundra Aquatic Centre lease from 1st of July 2022. A number of activities were held in May as part of the Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Month to raise awareness of domestic and family violence and send a clear message that this will not be tolerated in our community. New partnerships evolved with Sunshine Coast Light in the Queensland Government's DFV Prevention Council, leading to opportunities to be involved and engage in brave conversations. Council celebrated and recognised the 870 passionate volunteers who partner with Council to deliver vital services across many areas of Council, from helping people learn to read, preserving our history, delivering exciting events and sharing our region's stories during National Volunteer Week from May 16 to 22. National Reconciliation Week activities were held from 25th of May to 3rd of June, including official launch of National Reconciliation Week by Council. 2 Voice, Treaty, Truth and Justice seminars were also delivered. The Sunshine Coast Youth Council has developed and implemented several engagement activities, including a survey and a series of pop-up stalls to hear from young people aged 12 to 24 across the region and gain an understanding of what they love about the Sunshine Coast. The survey also revealed the top 3 areas of concern for people on the Sunshine Coast, youth mental health, drug alcohol issues and public safety. The data from this engagement provide direction for the actions for the Youth Council for the next 12 months. This quarter, the Community Strategy Leadership Group has continued to deliver on the outcome areas and priorities of the Sunshine Coast Community Strategy. The group has focused on supporting development of the Shine a Light on Racism, Anti-Racism campaign as aligned with the inclusion agenda. The inaugural Community Strategy Leadership Group ended its 2-year term in June, and a new group was formed by an expression of interest process and came together for their first meeting in June also. Strong relationships and connections with neighbours are important to building a stronger community on the Sunshine Coast. The winners of Council's Neighbour Day Community Story nominations were announced in May 2022 to 3 deserving community members. The Migrant Learn to Swim and Beach Safety Program, conducted in partnership with Royal Lifesaving Society Queensland, was successfully completed by 45 participants who have gained newfound confidence in and around the pool and the ocean. During the quarter, a total of 281 successful grant applicants were funded to respond to community needs and opportunities, totalling just under $1 million. The 2022 Horizon Festival program was launched in June with more than 100 artists, sponsors and contributors in attendance. The festival will be held from 26th of August this week and to 4th of September 2022. And the program includes 601 local artists, presenters, facilitators and community participants, of which over half of those, 300, are local. Usage of both the physical and virtual library is on the increase, demonstrated that a return to the physical library by customers is not impacting on the popularity of the digital collections and programs. There was more than 186,000 visitors to our libraries during the quarter, an increase of 5.1% compared with the previous quarter. The refurbishment of the Kiwana Library was completed, and thanks to Queensland Government's first 5 Forever funding, the 10 story seats across the region received fresh new illustrations thanks to well-known children's book authors. This is to encourage parents and caregivers to play a proactive role in developing their child's early literacy skills and encourage a love of reading. Thank you, Acting Mayor. Councillors. Thanks, Warren.
Through Mr. Deputy Mayor, and building on some of the work that's already been raised to you. So over the last quarter, continued rainfall, rapid growth and flooding events have really stretched our teams in relation to their service delivery. We've seen thousands of potholes filled during this period. We've worked in relation to upgrading of our roads. We've continued to provide the service across our entire road network and park network during that time. You've noticed that at times it's been difficult to get in and mow the parks, and that has caused us a little bit of a backlog. We are addressing that backlog and have most of it under control. We hope to be ready for the growing season, which is just around the corner, and as mentioned, a likely rain season continuing going forward. We've seen a real uptake in relation to our community, our tourists and our visitors using our park networks, and this has caused a bit of attention as we see lots of people who are out and exercising very early, particularly on some of our weekdays, which were actually when we did most of our mowing and activities. So to the team, they've done an exceptional job of working with our community to ensure that we still get those parks mowed, we still do that whippersnipping activity, we still keep it at a very high level going forward. In terms of our stormwater network, it definitely has been tested over this last period with the rain events in different locations, and we've been working through that both in terms of continuing to investigate our stormwater network. We've been running little robots through a lot of them, working out what is actually working effectively, where do we do maintenance, where we need to do relining, and the relining program is in full swing in relation to that. We've also been testing our modelling in relation to our flood modelling, and a lot of information was provided in this last quarter, which really gave individuals and investors the opportunity to see what that flood information is at different events over time, and to provide that as a due diligence in relation to it, but also having a look at what resilience we can do in relation to the stormwater network. We've also seen an increase in usage on our pathways, particularly the coastal path, and having an ability to actually maintain that coastal path and, where possible, fill in those gaps along that coastal path is a priority for us, both in the last quarter but also going forward in relation to that. We've also seen probably an increase in some of our path usage with a mixture of those people on cycles, those people walking, those people running, those people, parents with prams, but we've also seen an increased use of scooter use in other activity. And that tension in relation to those pathways is really making us look at our pathway planning going forward and ensuring we can provide for all of those users and encourage those users going forward. In terms of the transport network, the last quarter saw us a focus in relation to working closely with the Department of Transport and Main Roads on a wide range of major projects which are critical to the network being in play, both in the immediate future and towards the Olympics, and ensuring that each part of that puzzle of that transport network is actually working together in the most effective way. So we spent a fair bit of time with the department and our officers making sure we're aware of that, and particularly in relation to making sure that we are explaining that we wish to move around the Sunshine Coast and move to Brisbane. We want both to occur, and we need systems and processes to allow that to occur. And finally, I suppose in this role I have had the opportunity over the last 2 months to really drive around and see what is happening out there and talking to some of the crews, and I'm very proud of our outdoor staff who've been working through, particularly the last quarter, but for the last year, in relation to the rain events, the COVID that's been occurring, the difficulty in getting materials and activities to do their tasks, and the presentation that's being provided is outstanding. And so just a shout out to all of the outdoor staff who are doing a great job in relation to that. I'd like to pass over to Sean Jacobs.
Thank you, Warren. Through the Acting Mayor, I would like to provide an update for Quarter 4 of the financial year in relation to our Service Excellence goal. In Quarter 4, Council concluded the comprehensive consultation program for the new Sunshine Coast Planning Scheme and analysed the feedback from around 8,000 community members. This feedback will inform the next stage of drafting the new planning scheme, and a summary of the feedback will be shared with the community, and Council will continue to undertake further engagement on the draft planning scheme when it is prepared. Throughout Quarter 4, Council continued to respond to high development activity in our region, with approvals issued for an estimated $637 million worth of construction. To support this continued demand, Council focused on meeting statutory obligations, assessing 86% of applications on time, managing the large volume of work and ensuring the wellbeing of our teams. The conclusion of the federal government home builders scheme earlier in the year, coupled with market pressures affecting building costs, has resulted in a slight decrease in building work approvals when compared to the same quarter last year. As the industry continues to flourish, the protection of our environment remains paramount. The Construction Management Waterway Protection Task Force continued to work with the industry to improve the compliance of inspected development sites by 20% and inspected building sites by 9%. The task force continues to focus on building, if you'll excuse the pun, a strong culture of self-compliance within the industry to protect our precious waterways and environment. Serving both the community and the environment, the illegal dumping program investigated over 300,000 litres of illegally dumped waste. This equates to 1,500 full wheelie bins. Through investigations, 78% of the dumped waste was able to be recollected by the responsible people and disposed of lawfully without any cost to council or the community. As part of creating a more diverse and sustainable options for our community and their end-of-life needs, Council's cemetery services now offer the option of natural burials, allowing family members to be laid to rest in the bushland at Woombye Cemetery. Council launched its very own book, written and illustrated by Council staff. With more than 53,000 dogs calling the Sunshine Coast home, this heartwarming book helps our youngest members of the community and their families understand how to stay safe around dogs and be responsible pet owners. The book is available at Sunshine Coast Libraries and will complement Council's Smart Paws program, which is provided for free to schools and childcares across the region. Timely for Book Week. Our customer contact centres assisted over 65,000 customers in Quarter 4 and in response to feedback from our community continued to expand the service options available for our customers. This include opening an SMS as a way to contact Council. Customers can now communicate with Council via text message, attaching images and videos to assist with their requests. The service is available during business hours and is already receiving great feedback from our community. Automated forms were made available for common services such as waste, supporting the launch of the Green Bin program. The forms have been used over 20,000 times since being made available to the community earlier this year, allowing officers to focus on more complex and human-related tasks. The Our Council digital campaign saw 2,556 customers elect to receive their rates notice via email. As we know, email delivery reduces costs, reduces paper waste and provides timely service for our community and means people can access their information from any device, anywhere. And finally, we introduced tailored online services to our funeral directors who access Council's cemetery services most often. This allows them to better support our community in their time of need. Council continues to demonstrate its commitment to service excellence, responding to our growing community with services, systems and support to match our goals and vision as a community and organisation. I'll now hand over to Ms Heidi Roberts, Group Executive for Business Performance, to provide an update on outstanding organisation.
Thank you, Shanna. Through you, Acting Mayor, Madam CEO, welcome online, Councillor Dixon. Good morning, councillors. As you know, our organisation aspires to be and continues to be outstanding, both for the community we serve and for our people. Our organisation is high-performing, innovative, community-focused and marked by great teams, robust governance and good regional leadership. So one of the elements of that is that proactive advocacy to industry and other levels of government is one of the ways that we gain support for the delivery of our region's game-changing major projects, which are integral to progressing our vision of being Australia's most sustainable council: smart, healthy, creative. Following the recent Australian federal election held in May, we released the Sunshine Coast 2022 Federal Election Advocacy Priorities document, which outlined our core commitments for advancing the prosperity, connectivity and livability of our Sunshine Coast region. The Queensland Government's State Infrastructure Strategy 2022 was also released during the quarter. This document outlines a number of investments in critical infrastructure that's required on the Sunshine Coast, including several to support our role as delivery partner in the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The strategy document outlines commitments to develop a satellite village within the Maroochydore City Centre, to deliver a new Sunshine Coast Indoor Sports Centre, as well as upgrades to the Sunshine Coast Stadium and Sunshine Coast Mountain Bike Centre. This quarter saw a number of achievements, including key activities to create great workplaces and community spaces that connect and deliver for our community. In terms of construction of the City Hall, significant construction progress has been achieved this quarter across all levels. Further works on the external facade and ground level streetscape are progressing at a rapid pace. The inspiration behind the design, the hinterland's majestic glasshouse mountains, is now becoming evident as the building's exterior is unveiled. The similarities to the glasshouse mountains can be seen in the architect's use of mountain forms and colours, the stepped roof and curved facade, and the tower of gradually planted native species. Fit out on a number of floors will be completed in the coming weeks, and procurement is complete for furniture, audio, visual and IT equipment, and installation is underway as we speak. As highlighted previously, our City Hall building is not only the epicentre of democratic decision making, but it also serves to exemplify our region's commitment to climate responsiveness and sustainability and service to our community. The building's been designed to achieve a 5-star Green Star and NABERS ratings and reflects our vision to be Australia's most sustainable region. Our 38 other workplaces are all part of a revitalisation program, with Wilson Architects appointed in May 2022 to lead preliminary design and feasibility studies for Nambour Administration Precinct, and the Caloundra Administration Building has detailed design documentation already commenced and early procurement activities are underway. Triple bottom line sustainability principles, so economic, environmental and community sustainability, continue to influence all we do at Council. This quarter, Sunshine Coast Council, as mentioned by Madam CEO, it adopted its $847 million budget at a special meeting on 23rd of June. Our budget aims to deliver services and infrastructure for a stronger, better, sustainable Sunshine Coast, focusing on local first, local communities, our local environment and our local businesses. The 2022-23 budget includes initiatives and programs which respond to climate change, demonstrating we are contributing at a local level to this global issue as we strive to be a zero net emissions organisation by 2041 and strive for a climate positive Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. We were Australia's first local government to offset its entire electricity consumption across all its facilities and operations from renewable energy generated at the Sunshine Coast Solar Farm. In 22-23, we will invest $48 million to upgrade the Nambour Waste Precinct to sustainably manage our region's future waste and move towards a circular economy. This includes a new materials recovery facility with improved high-tech capabilities to sort mixed recyclable waste collected from household and business yellow lid bins. Street lighting will be converted to LED bulbs in a $4 million collaborative project with Energex. $300,000 of solar panels will be installed on council-owned buildings. As detailed by Bill, the garden organic service has been expanded to nearly 90,000 households to divert more waste from landfill and prevent dangerous greenhouse gases resulting from decomposing waste. $400,000 has been allocated to implement phase 2 of our climate risk framework for a more resilient future, and $150,000 has been allocated to deliver the coastal hazard adaptation strategy projects and $500,000 for stormwater management projects. The capital program also includes the use of innovative, sustainable, recyclable and long-lasting materials in our construction projects. Our procurement policy was also endorsed this quarter, promoting an even more environmentally conscious approach to contracting and engaging with local suppliers. We've introduced the Environment and Sustainability Guideline, which outlines a framework for contracting in an environmentally considerate manner. That complements our Local Preference Guideline, which encourages engagement with local and First Nations businesses and suppliers with social missions, centred on benefiting people who are considered disadvantaged in our local community. For the 21-22 financial year, of the $422.5 million associated with purchasing, $300 million was spent with local businesses. That represents 71% of total purchasing spent. Councils continue to endeavour to pay all of our suppliers within 7 days, regardless of their contracted payment terms, to assist with economic recovery. In relation to digital capability and transformation, our new digital strategy was developed and endorsed with a strong focus on cybersecurity, mobility, connectivity and accessibility. And this quarter, we prevented over 807 impersonation attempts and over 309 malicious attacks. All of the above initiatives, the updates provided by my colleagues and the leadership of our portfolio councillors demonstrates and showcase the ways in which we continue to be high-performing, innovative and sustainable in all that we do, both internally and externally for our community. We're a council defined by great people, strong governance and regional leadership with the vision and determination to continue to be an outstanding organisation.
Thank you. Thank you, CEO, members of our ELT for such a comprehensive and professional report on Q4, because I think we're all aware that this is an incredibly valuable way of letting our community understand what's been achieved by this council. And that report shows the scope and the depth of the services that we deliver, but I really do commend the CEO and the office for the conciseness and the quality of those reports. Having said that, I'd like to ask somebody to move. Councillor Johnston, second. Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Johnston, would you like to open?
Just to say that there are quite a number of very capable people leading this organisation, and I'd like to also thank all of the workforce who've worked so hard to achieve what has been achieved, which actually is quite astounding considering the environment that we had to do it in. And so all of the ELT, and I'd appreciate if they passed on to all of the employees under their responsibility the appreciation and thanks of the council for the great work that they continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Very well said. Any other speakers? Well then, Councillor Lansbury.
Thank you, through the Chair. And I'd like to also pass on the extensive report that our officers have brought to the Chamber today. It's incredible in regards to the work that goes on behind the scenes in our council. And from myself personally, from the economy portfolio, it's just wonderful to be on board with such a great team. Just a couple of quick items I'd just like to address the Chamber. Obviously, just this week as well, just to let the community know that TMR obviously are delivering stage 2 of the Caloundra Transport Corridor upgrade, and they'll be advertising for a stakeholder interest group from people from different community groups to come on board and help input into the next stage of the detailed design. I'd like to thank also the officers for the delivery of the coastal pathway, especially the section through Moffat Beach, Dickey Beach and the Neil Street car park. The feedback from our community has just been amazing, and I know our officer there, Warren, spoke about the huge increase in pedestrian activity and exercise along our coastal foreshore, and it's just been amazing the amount of people that are out there using that, so well done on that. And I know there was some hiccups in the delivery of that with some of the officers on board, and I'd like to personally thank those officers, because it was quite a sensitive project, but we got there in the end and the outcomes have been amazing. Also, the buy local Sunshine Coast in terms of our economy and what that actually delivered for our local job opportunities here on the coast as well. The work that goes behind the scenes with obviously a lot of our events that the team run in ECDEV, especially Meet the Maker, meeting that we had, which we had about 100 businesses from our agri-network businesses across the coast that attended. It was a great way of showcasing what we can deliver here on the Sunshine Coast, especially not only interstate but internationally as well. We spoke as well about the procurement and the investment that we put into our local economy, and obviously great to see, I think 68% of our local procurement injected just on $80 million over this last quarter, which is an outstanding achievement. And also the Sunshine Coast Sports Symposium that I attended as well, and participated in a game of wheelchair/rugby basketball with my fellow councillor Jason O'Prey, and it was just an amazing experience, and I look forward to the next game. But I'll just like to finish on just one note, and I feel quite, in terms of just putting across from my community's expectations, when I was elected just over 2 years ago, the interest in the activation project and Create Caloundra. And I feel that the process has been quite slow. It's obviously concerning for me as a councillor representing Caloundra. It sits at 60% here on our deliveries, which I'm led to believe that's quite a confident measurement, which is probably less than that. But I'm concerned that this project is running behind schedule. It's a project that has met all the actual council endorsed documents, policy and strategies. I know there's a workshop coming up next month on the next stage of Create Caloundra and the activation project over there, that what we're going to deliver in the CBD. So I'll look forward to hopefully seeing that move along much more quickly than it has over the last 2 years. So thank you, and I look forward to endorsing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Mr Chair, I'd like to highlight some things here that are really important for the community to understand. 68% of council's available purchasing spend for the quarter went to local businesses. That's supporting our community. That resulted in $80.5 million being injected into our local economy for the quarter. Now for the 21-22 financial year, that equates to $299 million being spent with local businesses, an increase of $41.2 million at the end of quarter 4 for last year. Significant investment in our community, especially with the high inflationary environment we're having at the moment. On top of that, this year we've got $273 million in capital works, and that's going to be invested in our job creating and local businesses again. It's continuing on. Another very important one is Palisade Investment Partners finalised their $314.4 million payment to council for the Sunshine Coast Airport. That's paid for. Ratepayers still own that asset, and we're not responsible for running or maintaining it. That's the partners, who have a 99-year lease. So now that airport, not only is it an asset, but it starts to earn income. We're getting 5% of the gross each year. Income producing asset. Those that said it was going to be a failure, incredible. And this year in the budget, we've increased by 3.5% the pensioner rate concessions for those that are really impacted by the high inflation environment we're coming at the moment. We also increased the cap on the lowest rated residential properties, brought that cap up, so it maintained 59% of our ratepayers paying the minimum rate. This is as well as balancing a budget. And to continue on, over $915,000 in community grants were awarded across 281 applications to support our community organisations. That's supporting our community organisations as well. To put that into context, that comes to a total of $4.6 million in community grants for the entire year. 875 applications were awarded over that for the whole year into our community. $4.6 million. I don't think you'd find many local governments supporting their communities on this sort of scale and balancing the budget. Our Sunshine Coast Solar Farm offset 78% of council's total electricity usage during the quarter. This avoided 4,485 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions into our atmosphere. Now remember, we've had 3 significant weather events. We've still got 78%. And compares to percent last year, or for the total for the year, for 21-22, 95% of council's total electricity usage. That's just the solar farm. Remember, we've also got the solar panels that we're rolling out on council buildings. That's an annual program. And the street lighting program, where we're gradually taking the halogens out with energy efficient LEDs. Each year that's a continuing program. From memory, I think it's about $4 million in this year's budget. That'll equate to around $700,000 saving in electricity costs into the future. That's just in 1 year. So we are very serious about the climate change commitments we've had. We've been on this journey since 2015, and we're still strongly pushing those cases. And on top of that again, 1,594 megawatt hours of power has been generated from converting waste to electricity at the Caloundra Renewable Energy Facility. That's reduced the greenhouse gases there by 21,788 tonnes, generating 6,630 megawatt hours of power for the year from the Caloundra Waste Facility. And I believe they're experimenting with one of the waste trucks being fully electric and charged by that each night. If that's successful, we can expand those sort of things in the future. We're actually leading the way. We have been for many years. And a lot of people don't know that. Do I need more time?
Would you like an extension, Councillor
Yes,
Hungerford? Councillor Hunger would like an extension. Someone to move? Councillor Landsberg, seconded Councillor Natoli. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Carry on, Councillor Hungerford.
I just have to highlight these.
No, we understand.
They're really pointed out, especially when you've got those doomsdayers out there always saying we're failing at everything. And you consistently, I get to report in here and it's contradictory all the time. $4 million has been invested in our road network to resurf 10.8 kilometres of local roads for the quarter, maintaining your current assets. Because what happens with the roads, if you let them fully deteriorate, you have to start from scratch and rip them up again and rebuild them from scratch. If you maintain and intervene during the life period, you extend the life period. So you're spending millions to save billions. Over the next 40 to 60 years, that's quite a saving. That equates to $22 million we're investing each year, doing 81.8 kilometres of roads for our region, and that's an increase of 29 kilometres from last year. So we're actually increasing the maintenance program. But on top of that, we've received 7 awards for the quarter. This is just for the quarter. The Sunshine Coast was nominated as a top 7 Intelligent Community of the Year by the International Intelligent Community Forum. I think that's the 2nd year in a row we've had that nomination. 3rd. They keep getting nominated each year. The Sunshine Airport Expansion Project won the Best Public Works Project, over $5 million, in Australasia at the International Public Works Conference hosted by the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australia. And from memory, the Sunshine Coast Airport is the first airport in Australia to receive carbon neutral accreditation. The first. Again, we're leading the way. The Stage 1 Northern Parkland Diddillibah Foreshore Revitalisation Project won the Green Space Urban Award at the Australian Institute of Horticulture Incorporated Annual Awards. Remember, we had a small element out there, totally rubbished that project right from the start. And now it's winning awards. Council won the Workplace Wellbeing Award to the Local Government Managers Australia Queensland Awards for Excellence in 2022 for 16 consecutive months of zero lost time injuries for civil construction. That's incredible. I used to work in the outside workforce, and keeping lost time injuries down was always a major achievement. And Council was the winner of 3 awards at the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects Queenslander Chapter Awards for the Sippy Downs Drive Boulevard Gateway, won the Landscape Architecture Award for Infrastructure, and the Nambour Forecourt revamp won the Landscape Architecture Award, Small Projects category, and the Regional Achiever Award. But Mr Chair, councillors, this isn't achieved without an excellent workforce and a staff that get behind it. So what I'd say is, this is as much an achievement for us to recognise, but we should also recognise the staff at all levels through council, because without them, this doesn't happen. I'd like the managers and the directors to pass it on to your staff, that we as council set the strategic direction, give the resources, but it's the staff that make it happen. They're the actual ones that are the real achievers here, and I'd like them recognised. I put it to you that this is another excellent report. I enjoy doing these, especially when you get the knockers out there always trying to rubbish everything. And I just find this entertaining to actually produce, because I can't understand how they keep that negativity when we're achieving so much and we're leading the way on most things. But I put it to you, this is an excellent report. I look forward to this year, because it can only get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. It's lovely to hear your passion and the financial lens that you always bring to these occasions. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. To the CEO, congratulations for a great year. It is fourth quarter, but it ends a year that has been obviously very challenging. Remember this time last year we were dealing with COVID and the organisation struggling, community was struggling, and we got through that. We've had problems with excessive rain, real challenges. Cost of construction has gone through the roof. So for an organisation to be able to achieve so much, congratulations to you, to ELT, and all the staff that go right down to the people on the ground. It's noticeable that we're starting to get a lot of traction, and it's just great. I don't want to continue to harp this. Obviously, so much been said, and it's been said appropriately. But I just want to raise on page 56 of 157, 3.3.2, and Councillor Hungerford did mention, obviously, the criticism that we had with Northern Parklands. And look, we live in an environment where people are sometimes very uncomfortable with change and don't always understand. But, you know, the end result is that we have an outstanding project that's been delivered to the community, and it's silenced those people. The critics have come along, they've had a look. There are probably still a few people that would still like to go back, but ultimately we've been able to silence them just through the delivery of an outstanding project. And I think that that's always part of the politics, and we have to accept that we deal in that environment. We're dealing with people all the time, and going through that process is really important for us to be able to do that. I did notice in the news the other night, two of the LNP members were very critical, obviously, of the roadworks that have impacted. And this part here also talks about delays in terms of works around Brisbane Road and closures in that area. The report doesn't highlight the challenges that we have when we go into these projects. It's very easy to criticise, and I do understand, and my sympathy goes out to those businesses that have been affected. Because yes, the project should have been completed by now, and we're still 6 weeks, 7 weeks later, still unable to complete it. But it is not the fault of the council. When we opened up the road and dug it, we found that Unity Water's infrastructure was not in the place where it was meant to be, and new designs had to be done. And of course, the challenge is to get consultants that can actually do designs. So we were left with a situation that it was inevitable that we were going to have major delays in that area. So I just want to clarify the point that council has done everything it can. We've been working with the local businesses to try and minimise the impacts on them and try and accommodate and deal with them. The roads will be open up in a few weeks' time. But the traffic delays in all that area, it's just an unfortunate part of the growing pains that we've had to go through. This is the second time that we've had significant delays because of an external organisation like Unity Water. And major infrastructure like major water mains, sewage have to be relocated to be able to accommodate the works that are there. So I just wanted to highlight that I thought that the criticism that came to council needs to be clarified, that it's not necessarily the fault of the council. It is just the circumstances that we found where other infrastructure belongs to another organisation had to be dealt with, and we have the same issue with Energex from time to time as well. On the next page, 3.5.1 talks about the amount of money that council spends on events, and it does a great job in being able to support a whole range of events. It brings great economic development, and I think previously I've made comments that I'd like to see the component of our cultural events increase. I had a meeting yesterday with the organiser of the Sunshine Coast Comedy Festival, and it's so disappointing that such great potential to grow that type of event here, it's just not being supported, and there's just no money to be able to help them get a grip into this market and build that event. We heard that Caloundra Music Festival for 15 years had a lot of money poured into that from council, but some of these other fledgling and opportunity that we can see out there, like sculpture, which is the wearable art fashion that we have, is sensational. They have the capacity to be outstanding events that are up there.
Sorry, Councillor Natoli, would you like an extension?
Yes.
So, Councillor, someone to move. Councillor Suarez, seconded Councillor Law. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Please continue.
I'll be very quick. I just want to make a comment that I think some of these events could be leading events. They could be incredible for the Sunshine Coast and build that other component layer of diversity in terms of the events that we have here. And I know that people are looking for lifestyle opportunities, and now that we have the airport functioning and expanding, we have the opportunity to bring people on lifestyle packages where Visit Sunshine Coast could package up both the event tickets, the accommodation, and a whole range of other opportunities, and package these up. I'd like to see, Madam CEO, maybe some way that we can look at how we can help some of these organisations get to the next level, be able to grow and there's so much enthusiasm. I think Deputy Mayor's met up with Gretchen in regards to the Sculpture Edge. What they're doing and the planning that they've got, but she's pregnant and she's dealing with all of these pressures of delivering this outstanding show, and she can take it to the next level. Just needs some help from us, and there isn't any mechanism within the council structure to be able to help them get to that point. And I remember years ago in Coolum we had an incredible kite festival, and it was just wonderful. But there was little support coming through, and once all of that energy was dissipated from the local volunteers, it just fell over. And it's just such a shame, because it could have been one of the most amazing kite festivals in the country, if not the world.
Thank you, Councillor Natali. I think Brisbane's just enjoyed a very successful kite festival, which probably illustrates your point. Councillor Cox.
Thanks, Chair. I had a number of points to just raise today, but the CEO and her leadership team have done a really great job of comprehensively going through that list, so I feel that there's no point going on with the ones that I had noted down. I did want to raise a couple of things, and firstly, last week with the operational plan, I raised a query in relation to the City Hall, and I just wanted to acknowledge staff that pulled together a workshop. After that meeting last Monday, we had a workshop on the Thursday, so I just wanted to say well done for pulling that together in such a short period of time. I think I certainly have got a lot more knowledge out of that workshop, and I hope sort of my fellow councillors have as well, as to where that particular project is at. In the operational plan, I know Councillor Landsberg has expressed his frustration with some of the dealings here with the Create Caloundra and the Creative Hub that we have down here, and the length of time that that's taken. So I just wanted to echo his comments. Certainly, being one of the Caloundra-based councillors, we do often get that constant feedback from the community about, you know, where's it at, how come it's taking so long. So I suppose Councillor Landsberg, myself and Councillor Reck are just continually wanting to see the focus drawn back to Caloundra. So anything that you need of us, we're more than happy to do that. I note that one of the points raised during the presentations was about the Northern Parklands in Woombye, and Councillor Natali's also raised that. And it's really been exceptional to hear the community feedback from that project. I've been sitting on that particular project control group for a long time, 5-6 years, and to see that project delivered and the response from the community is just such a heart-warming experience. And yeah, well done to all the team behind that particular project. And lastly, I just wanted to bring up something that Councillor Natali also raised, which was about the cultural offering within our events sponsorship and portfolio, where we offer that sort of level of support. We had the Buskers by the Lake Festival over the weekend at Lake Kawana, and there was around about 10,000 people over the 3 days. So that was an exceptional event put on by a really community orientated person that lives in Division 3, running it in Division 3, but it's for the Sunshine Coast. So I'd like to see, as you've said, a lot more support for those cultural based offerings. So anything we can do to see that sort of diversified would be great. So I will be supporting this here today.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Law.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for a review not only of the quarter but quite an incredible year. There really is very little left to say on what has been achieved by the council, by your team, Madam CEO. But there's a couple of points that I want to make an observation on, and I'll start in particular with the excellent review that Councillor Hungerford gave us around the financials and how we're doing in many areas that have been often points of criticism for the council. And you're quite right, we're leading the way. However, I really must emphasise that while we're leading the way, we mustn't mislead the way either. And when we refer to our solar farm and the emissions, and when we refer to the emissions from the Caloundra landfill, please, let's not mislead anyone of what that is doing for council's emissions at the moment. Those emissions are unbelievably valuable for our environment. and they are very, very important that we continue to demonstrate what is possible. But we must also demonstrate that we will not mislead the way, and we will lead the way in what we're doing. For the council, the benefit of the solar farm is that it's a financial model. We do not gain any emissions benefit and any carbon reduction for the solar farm. It's a financial model. When we look at what happens at Caloundra landfill, it's very, very good for the environment, but the council is not able to claim any of the carbon emissions to credit against our own emissions. It goes to the organisations that have that in place. We benefit because we are fuelling our electric rubbish truck and we are reducing emissions overall for the whole community, for the benefit. And there'll be organisations out there who are buying those carbon credits that we're creating. But let's not mislead anybody about what we're doing. I want to finish on a far more encouraging and positive thing, and I want to recognise the volunteers who work with council. In the last quarter we had National Volunteer Week. We have around 800 plus volunteers who give their time and energy to the benefit of our whole community. Bush care, catchment care, the list goes on and on of how and where people help us. And we're able to help organisations in our community, as Councillor Ted highlighted, and we had highlighted in the report, nearly $1 million given to not-for-profit organisations who, on the whole, are volunteer-led and volunteer-run, and we're helping them deliver their programs for the benefit of our whole community. And by doing this, we're able to make sure that the impact of council spreads far and wide, much beyond our own influence and our own sphere of control, because we encourage others to do more and to get far more out of volunteering. So to be able to lead the way in our volunteering and support National Volunteer Week, I think is absolutely wonderful and adds to what we achieve as a council as well. So thank you very much, and I will be supporting this report today.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Suarez.
Thank you. Through the Chair, I just wanted to follow the same vein as Councillor Law. I actually hadn't planned on standing up to speak to the report today. I think everyone's done a great job in acknowledging what the council and the staff do. They do exemplary work. But I also wanted to look at the external stakeholders that council deals with, and Councillor Law touched on our bush care group, but we also have a number of residents who sign up for the Land for Wildlife program, and that wouldn't be possible without the Land for Wildlife workers who assist those landowners in rehabilitating their land. The other external organisation I'd like to also acknowledge is the Sunshine Coast Environment Council. They worked with Sunshine Coast Council in terms of the World Environment Day activities, and this year we had our 50th anniversary of World Environment Day held at Coolum. So I'd just like to acknowledge the work that SCEC do in bringing these environmental activities to our broader community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. There seem to be no other speakers, but if I may, I will take this opportunity to say a few words, because I think it is appropriate that, whilst we are perhaps risking self-praise, this is such a remarkable quarter, rounding out a remarkable year, that I feel compelled to put my transport hat on for a second and just say I was reminded this morning, as I and many, many others were stuck in the congestion on Caloundra Road, just how critical our spiralling congestion has become as we grow, and how important that makes the Think Change travel behaviour change program. So I'd like again to encourage you all to become as familiar as you can do with that journey that we've really just started, a 2 or 3 year journey, and trying to get people to just rethink about how they move around the coast. And that will sometimes challenge habits of a lifetime. But it is something that we do need to do concurrently to being the best possible advocates to the state and the federal governments to provide the additional transport infrastructure that we so crucially need in our region to maintain our quality of life. But the Travel Behaviour Change program is a tremendous initiative that is funded through the Transport Levy, and I'm incredibly pleased at the rigour of it. So please, if you can, pay some attention to it and encourage your communities as best you can to have a look at the way that they currently move around and make any changes at all that they possibly can to reduce the amount of private car use, for example. The other one I'm so proud of this council when we essentially succeeded in getting the UNESCO Biosphere accreditation. Look, that basically means we put ourselves under the watch of an independent umpire, and that will hold us to the standards that we set for ourselves. That's a remarkable thing for us to do as a community, and I love the fact that that was achieved in last quarter, so well done. I thought again on a very sort of week by week basis that were 45,315 garden bins, organic waste bins delivered. And I have to say my impression from the community that I represent, it was accepted very well. They get it. Our community gets that you cannot be the most sustainable region without putting real substance behind your behaviour and waste management. So to have rolled out the organic bins in, I think, a really satisfactory way that's been well accepted by the community is a real achievement for this council. And finally, one of the ones that I thought, again, has been mentioned several times, but again, for me was a pivotal moment for the region was the completion of the international runway and the payment from Palisade, which essentially extinguished our debt. Not many councils step into that space with such a large-scale infrastructure project and pull it off, and we did. And that's such an important piece of infrastructure for this region. So I love, by the way, from Executive Manager Heidi with the progress on City Hall. I love that building. I don't like it, I love it. And I was very fortunate to meet with the Ambassador of Israel yesterday. And I've invited him, while I'm in the chair, to return in October and take a tour. Presumably, weather permitting, we will be in that position where we can. And I'm absolutely confident that anybody that comes to this region will see that we've so strongly signalled a standard that we want to see rolled out for our city centre. And it's so fortunate to me that we did make a terrific decision to make that building available to the entire community with level 9. So it'll be a fabulous project, and I'm looking forward to showcasing it, hosting delegations as a region to very many people to see how well that's been done. Look, I think all of this basically, in my view, translates into confidence. The report is designed to essentially help the community understand what is your council doing with your rates. I again commend every executive member who did that so well, and to the CEO. I hope it translates into confidence in what are very challenging and volatile markets. So congratulations, and I'm very pleased to support the recommendations. So, councillors, there are no. So, would you like to close, Councillor Johnston?
I would actually, Mr. Acting Mayor. During the discussions, I realised that Deborah is not here, and unfortunately, because of tragedy in her family, she couldn't be here today. So there has been no discussion about the community services that are provided. Shane is here, and also the planning results for the year. And I just, if I could be indulged for a few minutes to give some of these figures. Thank you. In the development activity area, we've had 54,000 inquiries, 346,000 free site reports that have been accessed by the community and contractors. There's 11.5 thousand building applications were lodged during the last 12 months. There's 4,000 plumbing applications as well. 1,900 development applications were lodged. and I think there was about 400 or more of those were actually material change of use, which require a lot of work, much more work than normal. There was 2,600 allotments created, mainly in Palmview and also in Baringa and Aura area. There was $2.2 billion worth of building approvals were processed with this council and 33,700 plumbing inspections. That's an enormous amount of work that was being completed by a team which is extremely dedicated. And also I'd like to thank Shona and Tanya and their team for all the work that they do in relation to ensuring that when people ring in, they're handled efficiently, promptly, get the right advice, as well as the regulatory services that are performed with all the difficult things, the fines, the regulation of dogs, cats, and all those sorts of things. They're not easy jobs to do, but they do it with great talent and with great effectiveness. And I'd like to just close in thanking everybody once again for the work they do.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Johnson, for again recognising Acting G. Shanna in giving further detail to her, I think, very dedicated, committed report. So thank you to both of you. Councillors, that concludes debate. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 8.2, which is the July 2022 financial report. I'm going to see if we can slide this in before morning tea. So Isaac, over to you and see whether you can do that.
I'll be quick. Good morning all. Good morning Deputy Mayor, Councillors and Council Executive Staff. Here to present the first report of the new financial year for 2022-23. Council's operating result at the end of July is $154.7 million, which is favourable to our expected budget by 2.7. So revenues are above budget by $1.5 million, while expenses are below by 1.2. The large operating result is largely due to the generation of rates, which was reduced in July. A couple of key points. The holiday park fees are still trending above the expected budget for July, so continuing that trend from last financial year. And return on investments are increasing due to the changing interest rate market conditions, which is a change from previous year as well. And operational expenditure is below budget by 3%. Our capital works program is 5% complete with a $13.7 million spend for July, and our core program is at 4.1%, it's $8.5 million. Our cash is $305 million. That will increase as rates come in over this next month. And our debt remains at $484 million. There are proposed borrowings this financial year of $44.4 million, and the breakdown is up there on the screen. Councillors, that concludes. So the recommendation is to receive and note the report titled July 2022.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Someone to move? Ted? Someone to second? Councillor Natoli? Ted, would you like to open?
Very good, Mr. Chair. Isaac's covered most of those. It's the start of the year. We're 1 month into the year, so there's very, very early figures, but it's off to a good start. Like Isaac pointed out, we've got a positive operating result of 154.7, which we've just received our rates from. That's 2.7 million above budget. The only highlight here that caught me was our investment parameters. What we factored for to what has happened now, because with the interest rates going up, it's a windfall for us. I'm one of the many who've got mortgages that are feeling the pain. Mine's gone to 4.24% now, but it is giving us a gain here. That's a $275,000 increase, or 130%. Basically what this is explained as, we've gone from about 0.5% average last year in the interest rates we were earning to an average of 1.6. And I think looking at the latest investment rates, we're about 3 or a bit above 3 at the moment going into the future. So that will give us a small windfall there, and we will put it to our advantage. So as of the 31st of July, 192.4 million operating revenue has been achieved, and that's 1.45 million more than the current budget, so that's a positive start for the year. The 31st of July, 37.7 million of the 503 million operating budget has been expended, resulting in a variance of 1.2 million. 13.7 million, 5% of council's 273 million capital works program has been financially expended. Remembering we've got a large carryover from last year because of shortages of materials and being able to get contracts on the ground. Hopefully we'll catch up on those this year and we get a finer year than we had last time. 3 major weather events made it very difficult to deliver on the ground. The core capital program has progressed 4.1% of budget, an actual spend of 8.5 million. Remembering this is going to a lot of our local trades and businesses, and that's very much helping our economy. And the other one is the debt schedule. We are down to 484 million with the subsea cable being paid off, the airport being paid off, and the solar farms doing brilliantly. That has really brought us down from 643 million down to 479, and with this year's program that's 484 at the moment. Excellent position considering we've got $6.5 billion worth of assets against that we're maintaining. So that's a very healthy position to be in, but we need to keep our eye on the ball and watching those capital works going into this year and those extra costs, how we factor for next year's budget. We're going to keep having those continual carryovers. So I think the year before was about 13 million, it was about 38 million this year. So we need to take stock of that and actually deliver what we've committed to before we commit to too much more. But excellent result, great start to the year. And I look forward to us getting a finer year and actually getting those capital works out where we can actually get, I think we got to 84%. We'd like to get over 90% if we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Landsberg.
Oh, thank you. Just through the chair, just a question for Isaac. Just in the capital expenditure, just there's 11 buildings notified for replacement, for refurbishment, for public amenity buildings. Is that possible to get that list?
Yes,
possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Law.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, if I may. With the changing situation on interest rates, as you've highlighted, have you projected forward what that might mean over the course of the coming year in relation to predicted forecasts of where interest rates are going?
Through the chair, do you mean through our existing debt or through?
To the potential benefit from our investments.
Okay. Through Mr. Mayor, so our current budget is $3 million, which was expected, and that was based on loosely a 1% interest rate. So we are receiving around a 3%. Sorry, just looking at Michael there. And so potentially could be double that at the end of the year. So it's good banks are talking to us now. Previously we couldn't get any investments through because they had a lot of cash, but now it's turned around pretty quickly. So.
All right, thank you. I think it would be useful as part of the regular reports just to see how that's going to look as we move forward, and obviously in relation to the debt exposure as well. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillors, are there any other speeches? I'll ask Councillor Hungerford if he wishes to close. No need to close, so in that case I'll just thank Isaac, Michael, Heidi very much for another well-presented financial report. We'll vote. All those in favour of the report? That's unanimous. We'll thank you very much. That's endorsed. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 8.3 after a short break of 10 minutes for morning tea. See you in 10 minutes. Councillors, if I could ask you to resume your seats. We're just about to recommence. In fact, Councillors, we're now back online and we are recommencing today's OM with item 8.3, the development application MCU 220075 Tourist Park, Diddillibah. That's the word. Thanks very much. I've only been here 33 years. I'll get there eventually. Woombye. So can I just ask you to hold for a second, Councillor Tully? Just introduce it. We have the report introduced by Katrina Patey, and I believe, Councillor Tully, that you've got a declarable.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I, Councillor Tully, notified that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 8.3 to be considered at the ordinary meeting 25th of the 8th, 2022. Due to being notified of one of the submitters is Benny Pike. Benny and I have been on a number of committees together for over 20 years, probably close to 25 years. So I will exclude myself from this meeting while this matter is being discussed and the vote is taken.
Well, thank you very much for your declaration, Councillor Tully. Katrina, would you like to commence your presentation just when Councillor Tully's out of the room, which he is now?
Good morning, councillors. I'm presenting to you today a report on a development application for a material change of use to establish a tourist park at 185 to 205 Diddillibah Road, Woombye. The application seeks to develop the site as a farmstay style tourist park with a mix of tourist accommodation types, including cabins, fixed glamping tents, caravan sites and camping sites. The application was subject to public notification, and this application is before council because more than 100 submissions were received in opposition to the proposal. The site is located in the northeastern part of the Woombye locality and is approximately 2.5 kilometres from the Woombye main street. The site has frontage to Diddillibah Road to its south, Walden Road to its west and the Bruce Highway to the east. Painter Creek forms the site's northern boundary. The future Nambour Woombye District Sports Park is located close by, between 300 and 400 metres to the west. The site is approximately 26.5 hectares in size and is presently used for residential and rural purposes, with a primary dwelling house and secondary dwelling located along the southern boundary and stables and a horse paddock along the western boundary of the site. The site slopes away from Diddillibah Road towards the creek and is partially subject to flooding. There is a band of vegetation within the site directly adjacent to Painter Creek. The site is included in the rural zone of the Sunshine Coast Planning Scheme, as are properties immediately surrounding it. The rural residential community of Diddillibah is located further to the east on the eastern side of the Bruce Highway. The future Nambour Woombye District Sports Park to the west is currently included in the sport and recreation zone. In September 2018, Council approved under delegation a development permit for a material change of use to establish short-term accommodation in the form of 8 cabins on site. This development is currently under construction and forms part of the overall proposal before Council today. The proposed tourist park comprises a total of 132 accommodation sites, which would generally accommodate up to 284 people at maximum capacity. The accommodation is comprised of 20 two-bedroom self-contained cabins, including the 8 already under construction, 19 one-bedroom glamping tent sites, each with an ensuite and deck, 49 caravan or recreational vehicle sites, and 44 camping sites. As seen on the plan, the cabins are proposed in the central western part of the site around the central lake feature. The glamping area is proposed in the southern part of the site near Diddillibah Road. The camping area is located in the central eastern part of the site, and the caravan area is located in the central western part of the site. The proposal also includes a number of ancillary recreational buildings and activities, including a recreation centre, pool and restaurant located near the site entry off Walden Road to the west, and a cafe located within the existing dwelling house near Diddillibah Road to the south. The proposal also includes farming activities for guest enjoyment, such as the animal farm, animal feeding and farm display in a rural-style shed, as well as agricultural crops. Recreational facilities are also proposed in the northern part of the site, and these include bushwalking, sporting fields and courts, an adventure park and mountain bike trails. All of these facilities would be available for guests only and would not be open to the general public. The application was publicly notified in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act during May of this year.
330 submissions were received, of which 247 were properly made. Of these, 132 were supportive and 115 were opposed. Submissions opposed were mainly concerned with the suitability of the site for the proposal and the potential traffic, noise and amenity impacts. The map on this slide identifies the location of submissions received from the general locality, excuse me, with the red dots identifying submissions in opposition and the green dots identifying submissions in support.
We may need to get a drink of water for Katrina.
Yes, I think so. Thank you. The proposed use is identified as being potentially consistent in the rural zone, excuse me, and it is considered that the proposed development meets the purpose and overall outcomes of the rural zone code. It is considered that the development would be complementary to the surrounding rural area because it proposes a form of low-key tourism development that relies on the natural environment and farming history of the area in its accommodation and activity offering. Additionally, the site is also well located for tourism use, having good road access and being located approximately 2.5 kilometres from the Woombye Main Street and 3 kilometres from Nambour, and in close proximity to Council's future district sports park. With respect to noise impacts, the application was accompanied by an environmental noise assessment report, which has demonstrated that given the dissipation of sound energy over distance, general activities associated with the tourist park will mainly be inaudible or negligible within the acoustic environment of the nearest sensitive use. To ensure that the development is subject to reasonable and ongoing management to actively minimise and prevent noise events, recommended conditions for any approval include restricting the use of the communal facilities to guests only, restricting hours of operations for guest facilities and for check-in and check-out, restricting amplified music and voice in the recreation building to certain hours and prohibiting the same in the country cafe, incorporating acoustic measures and treatments into the development, and requiring compliance assessment post-construction and preparation of a detailed noise complaints management procedure for the site. With respect to amenity, it is considered that the proposal will effectively minimise impacts to adjoining properties and to the rural character of the area, more generally through the low-rise building form and the provision of generous setbacks and landscaping to site boundaries and road frontages. The Country Cafe building and maintenance sheds, which are existing, are set back 12.5 metres and 20 metres from the Diddillibah road frontage respectively. The proposed glamping tents would be set back 30 metres to Diddillibah road and 50 metres to the eastern boundary. The proposed cabins would be set back 50 metres to the eastern boundary and the camping area would be set back 30 metres to the eastern and southern boundaries. The proposed buildings near Walden Road would be set back between 12 metres and 20 metres from the road frontage. Additionally, if the application is approved, landscape buffers 5 metres wide to Diddillibah Road, 3 metres wide to Walden Road and 5 metres wide to the eastern boundary and 10 metres wide to the Bruce Highway would be required. The subject site contains both Class A and Class B agricultural land. However, the lower lying Class B area, shown as green, is affected by periodic flooding, which limits the viability of land for cropping. The more elevated Class A2B area, which is purple, is limited in size, contains existing structures and is unable to be expanded to the east, west or south. It is considered that the development would not fragment or alienate good quality agricultural land, and it is noted that given the limited permanent structures proposed, the site could revert to pastures if the development ceases. Diddillibah Road is a rural neighbourhood collector and has sufficient capacity to accommodate the development. If the application is approved, the intersection would be required to be upgraded with a channellised right turn treatment into Walden Road, which is a dedicated turning pocket, and a basic left turn treatment, a deceleration lane into Walden Road. These upgrades will improve safety for both vehicles turning into Walden Road and for through traffic. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the reasonable and relevant conditions provided at Appendix A.
Thank you very much, and we'd like to recognise, look, many of us have had that tickle in the throat as part of the local infection, so well done for battling through that. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Councillor. And Katrina, thank you very much. Prior to moving this motion, I'd just like to say to you, Katrina, when we had our briefing Monday last week, I incorrectly said that I hadn't been informed about this. There was a bit of a mix-up in my office between myself and my PA, and I thought that she was talking about the one in Keel Mountain Road, which I knew all about. So I do apologise for embarrassing you that way. If I make mistakes like that, I'll always own up to them. So please forgive me. Thank you. Now, I'd like to move the recommendation, and clause 25, is that an additional one in there now, or it's as per what's on the screen? And clause 25 says that site maintenance, including the use of any machinery, must only be carried out between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And I thank Councillor Swery for alerting me to that.
I'm happy to second that.
I'll speak to your second. I'll speak to it once it's been seconded.
I think the Chair might like to recognise it's now being seconded, but councillors, for clarity, you can see that Councillor Johnston's motion is the one shown on the screen, and Councillor, it varies a little from the motion in the report in the red. Is that correct? Right. Okay. So we're all clear on that. Councillor Dixon, you're seconding that motion, so would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. This has been an application which has caused some angst with people living in that close proximity, and I believe that most of the conditions that have been imposed upon the application for the recommendation have addressed the vast majority of those concerns. There were mainly concerns about traffic, about effluent disposal, about noise, and about the flooded area. And a number of the councillors asked significant questions in relation to all those things, and now have got all the information. I hope that everybody is now satisfied, at least within the council, that the application conditions are adequate to address the vast majority of those concerns. In relation to traffic, I additionally had some concerns about the intersection between Namble Connection Road and Diddillibah Road, particularly with articulated vehicles, caravans, etc., etc. However, Main Roads have addressed that issue and said that with the traffic flows that occur on that road, it should not be, they don't believe it's a problem. So it's also somewhat remote from the application site, and it might be difficult to impose conditions there anyway, especially if the main roads don't support it. So apart from that, thank councillors for their involvement. Thank them for taking the interest and for asking really good questions, and the staff for giving good responses and being very cooperative and helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Are there any other questions or comments from the floor? Councillor Cox. Just got in, snuck in.
A bit surprised, thanks, Chair, that there weren't more questions. The light's coming up. Well, here they come now. Given last week at the agenda review, there was lots of questions, and thanks for the additional information that you provided answering all of those ones. I just thought I would rise to support this particular item. It's a unique tourism offering, in my opinion. I've done a fair bit of caravanning around Australia and even recently this year, and something like this is quite a unique offering. And I just thought I'd touch on a few points when I read through the report and the conditions of approval that were attached in Appendix A. I didn't have too many concerns, but one of the things I did note was that from an economic development, this is very consistent with the preservation of rural lands. And as we've heard in the presentation, there was a classification A and B within this site. There'll be great employment opportunities, I see, for the Sunshine Coast, especially for those neighbouring businesses in Woombye and Nambour. And as we all know, the proposed redevelopment of the Big Pineapple has suggested they're going to look at something similar to this. So I see that there's very much that complementary nature, and I just can't see too many faults. I read through the submissions, and I think they've been adequately addressed, those ones that were in opposition to this particular development application. So from my perspective, I see this as being a great offering, and I'm fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Suarez.
Thank you. Through the Chair, yes, I'd like to echo those sentiments raised by Councillor Cox and Councillor Winston. There were many questions that were raised in the information session, and the information that's been provided additionally to the report is very comprehensive, and I'm sure would have taken quite a bit of time. So thank you to the staff who supplied that. I have one question which is related to the economic need and how any approval of this site may impact on some of those surrounding facilities. So in the additional information, the question was, can we have information about the accommodation surrounding in the area? And I note that the Big Pineapple Festival, as Councillor Cox also identified, has a master plan and may have intentions to develop a similar offering. So should this application be approved, would this approval or this development impact on any of the future plans that that the Big Pineapple may have to put in a similar offering?
Through the Chair, look, it's difficult to answer a question about how, it depends on the timing of when things are approved and built and the impacts they have on each other. With respect to this proposal, it's describing itself as a fairly unique and self-contained tourism offering that's providing facilities on the site for the guests that would be attending. The Big Pineapple master plan that provides for tourist accommodation to occur would certainly be leveraging off all of the other different facilities that are provided at the Big Pineapple site. And this particular proposal is not a very large-scale facility that would result in my opinion, the Big Pineapple not proceeding with its accommodation offering.
So I guess just to clarify, in our internal assessment process, should an application be lodged by the Big Pineapple landowners, in that assessment process, they would not be looking at these external facilities to inform a decision of whether we make a recommendation or not.
Through the Chair, with respect to the Big Pineapple, the master plan's already been approved, so there is already an approval in place that would facilitate future development applications for tourist accommodation at the Big Pineapple site. So the issue of economic need has already been considered as part of the Big Pineapple project.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Do I take it that that was a question and you spoke to the motion? Just a question, an elaborate question. Okay, thank you. Councillor Law.
Thank you. Just a question, if I may. In relation to the vegetation on the site and the adjacent sites to this property are both quite well vegetated at the moment, and in one case almost fully vegetated except for a dwelling. What will be the overall outcome on this site if it's approved in terms of the revegetation beyond the riparian zone at the moment? What sort of site cover of vegetation will we achieve once this is fully completed, do you think?
Through the Chair, they are proposing to rehabilitate a fairly large area adjacent to the creek. I don't know off the top of my head what that would represent in terms of percentages of the site, but if you would combine that rehabilitation vegetation that's been included in the conditions, plus the extensive landscaping proposed to the site boundaries and within and around the different sites, it will certainly be a much greater coverage of vegetation on the site that exists now. That's for sure. That's probably all I can give you there.
Okay, thank you. And the second question in relation to stormwater and the creek that goes through the property, are we satisfied that all the infrastructure, the cabins, glamping and the caravan sites are far enough away from any flood risk?
Through the Chair, look, there are some sites that are within the Q100 flood zone, but it's been assessed by our flooding and hydraulics engineers that there is a flood emergency management plan that will be required to ensure that there's a safe movement of people to higher ground. There's certainly no permanent structures, none of the permanent cabins are proposed to be in that area. It's just some areas of camping and some of the RV sites. And we are satisfied that that can be managed in the event of a flood.
Okay, thank you. I might just speak to the motion then very briefly. It's a very detailed, extensive report. The conditions seem to respond to the issues raised both for and against by submitters. And with everything that I've learned from the report and the presentations, I would be supporting this today. So thank you very much for the work done and for the work done by the Council to get to this position.
Thank you, Councillor Law. There appear to be no other speakers in the pipeline, so if I may, Councillors, I would like to speak to the item. I am going to support the recommendation, your motion today, Councillor, but I would like to put on the record I did have some concerns about the viability of the food and beverage offering on this development, but I'm through the information provided, which I'd like to thank the team for. It was very thorough. I'm completely confident that both the developer and the team understand the catchment and its viability, so I'm happy to support it. Thank you. Councillor Winston, it appears that there's no other speakers. Would you like to close?
Yes, only to thank Councillor Dixon for seconding the motion and to once again thank all involved in all of the questions and collating all of the answers and a great deal of time that many council officers and councillors have spent really looking at this application and coming to a decision which hopefully means that it's going to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you for the applause. Councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. And thank you very much, Katrina. And I'll call in Councillor Natoli if somebody wouldn't mind. Thank you. Just give Councillor Natoli a moment to return before we move on to 8.4. Did you find it? Thank you, Councillor Natoli. We're now on to 8.4, disposal, easement of part of council freehold land at 34 Greenview Terrace, Palmview, and we have a presentation by Emma Frank.
Mr. Chair, if I can.
Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Dixon, my apologies, you have a declarable.
Yes,
Please
yes,
go
I
ahead.
do. And through you, Mr. Chair, I've notified the meeting and the CEO. In relation to this item, I am raising a declarable conflict of interest because I reside close to within proximity of this matter, this easement that's being considered. I can actually see it from my front door. Whilst I've advised staff that if I was in a position to vote, I would support it, I think it raises the question, being so close to where I live, that there would be a conflict on this matter, and I'm actually looking to exclude myself from the meeting, so I will depart, and if someone could invite me back in or let me know when it's done, I'll re-attend.
Thank you very much for your declaration. Councillor, you can look out for a text message from meeting management to invite you after the item's concluded.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Councillor Landsberg, I believe you also have a declarable.
Thank you. I, Councillor Terry Landsberg, notify that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 8.4, disposal of easement of part of council freehold land at 34 Greenview Terrace, Palmview, to be considered at today's ordinary meeting. Council's property management team has liaised with RPS Consulting Group as the survey managers on behalf of the developer in relation to the approval process and the eventual registration of the sewerage easement within council's land. Mr Brad Williams is the general manager at RPS on the Sunshine Coast, and he is also a member of a not-for-profit group, Wind and Sea Board Riders. Mr Williams has provided planning and development services to the club free of charge on matters that are unrelated to the matter that is being considered by council. The declarable conflict of interest may arise because I'm a member and also the president of Wind and Sea Board Riders. While the association with Mr Williams is remote of my councillor duties, this declaration is made in the event that a member of the community may perceive that I have a predisposition to supporting the work of this planning consultant. Given the remoteness of the association and that RPS Australia Proprietary Limited is not the applicant in this matter before council, but rather a consultant engaged by the developer, I believe I can appropriately manage any perceived conflict should it exist, and that I can impartially make a decision in the public interest on the matter before council. In consideration of my declarable conflict of interest, I'm of the opinion that I can participate in this discussion and vote on the matter, and in doing so, my participation will not lead to a decision that is contrary to the public interest. Further, I acknowledge the eligible councillors must by resolution decide my participation or otherwise in making a decision on this matter. And for my fellow councillors, I have not discussed this item with Mr Williams.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg, for your declaration. And councillors, in accordance with Section 150 ES 3BI of the Local Government Act 2009, I now call for a councillor to move that Councillor Landsberg either stay or leave the chamber for the duration of the discussion and decision on this matter. Councillor, just to remind you, should the majority decide it is in the public interest for the councillor to stay in the meeting for the duration of this matter, reasons for the decision will need to be recorded in the minutes. Do I have a councillor to move? Councillor Johnston, how do you move?
I'll move that you may attend the discussion. Clauses 4 and 5. The interest is not considered to be sufficient to undermine the ability of the councillor to form an impartial view and exercise their vote in the public interest, and 5, the interest being considered to be sufficiently remote as not to unduly influence the impartiality of this councillor.
Thank you for your motion to stay. Councillor Haggerford, you're seconding that. Any questions? No. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Lamberg. You're welcome to stay. And we'll now move on to the report. Thank you very much.
Good morning. This report seeks an exception to dispose of an interest in part of Council's freehold land under nomination of trust located at 34 Greenview Terrace, Palmview, to accommodate existing sewer infrastructure. There is a requirement for the registration of a sewerage easement in favour of Unity Water over part of Council's land under nomination of trust for park purposes. The purpose of the easement is to protect the existing sewer infrastructure. All costs associated with the easement are the responsibility of the applicant. Lot 8001 SP 29776 was transferred to Council by the developer responsible for the approvals related to 22 Twilight Avenue, Palmview. 2 easements were registered on title, with a third easement EX that now requires registration. The proposed easement is 34 square metres in area and is required to align with the existing easements, which are M and AD. The recommendation is for Council to resolve that an exception to the tender or auction process applies, as the disposal of Council's interest over part of 34 Greenview Terrace, Palmview is to a government agency, being Unity Water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Someone to move. Councillor Johnston's a seconder. Councillor Suarez, would you like to open?
Thank you. It's a fairly straightforward recommendation for a fairly straightforward issue that makes a lot of sense and provides a service through an easement that is essential for that area. So I'm happy to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Any other questions or comments? Appears not. So we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. If Meeting Management can text Councillor Dixon. And when we see him reappear, we'll go on to item 8.5. Welcome back, Councillor Dixon. We're now on 8.5, the Invasive Plant Surveillance Program, and I'll ask Officer Mark Call to proceed with the presentation. G'day, Mark.
Good morning, Acting Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Good morning to the leadership team. This report seeks council endorsement for a proactive invasive plant surveillance program for the next 3 years. The Biosecurity Act is state government legislation designed to safeguard local primary producers, the agricultural industry, tourism and the environment against impacts from invasive pest plants. Landholders are tasked with a general biosecurity obligation for properties or for land they're responsible for, and local government officers, we administer and regulate on the Act. The proposed suburbs, 21 suburbs in total, upper catchment locations, approximately 5,000 properties over 4,000 square metres earmarked for proactive inspections. The upper catchment locations are consistent with the biosecurity plan for our local government area, which is based around a catchment management approach. The process is to engage directly with property owners as much as we can, essentially looking to create a partnership with each individual property owner, walk through the issues on their property and offer them support according to what we find. Simply could be education material, could be access to the Environment Levy funded weed control fire equipment, which continues to prove very successful, or engagement or contact with local contractors and local land care groups. Where required, we provide formal notices with more direction. 63% of properties inspected in the last 12 months did have issues on them. Of that 63%, 83% either were already undertaking the appropriate control work or through the assistance of this program began to undertake actions. 17% of properties essentially didn't engage with the program, and where required we issued compliance notices. Just finish with the recommendation around those suburbs for the next 3 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Someone to move. Councillor Suarez. Someone to second. Councillor Cox, would you like to open?
Thank you. Through the Chair, thank you for the report, Mark. I just want to provide some context in terms of how this program sits within a number of our other strategies. We all recognise that the Sunshine Coast has a rich biodiversity across a range of habitats, including our bushland and coastal areas and aquatic environments. and invasive species are a significant threat to those environments. Managing invasive species is a priority for Council, and it is identified as a transformational action in our environment livability strategy. We also have a biosecurity plan for our local government area, and that's a requirement of the Biosecurity Act 2014. The Sunshine Coast Local Government Area Biosecurity Plan 2017 provides a framework for the management of priority invasive plants and animals. And this invasive plant surveillance program supports the objectives in that plan. This program primarily confirms the presence or the absence of invasive plants. It will monitor the compliance of the landowners in managing those plants, and it monitors the effectiveness of control measures that they may have undertaken. I am a member on the Weeds Task Force, which involves a number of external stakeholders to Council, including landowners, Department of Environment and Science, Department of Transport and Main Roads, a number of local community groups who do a lot of extensive work in managing our land for threats. And a conversation was recently had where when we do these inspections and the community may receive a notice, they see this as regulation or the big stick coming down on them. I don't see these inspections in that way at all. I actually see them as an opportunity to start a conversation with those landowners. We have a number of new residents who have moved to the Sunshine Coast, and particularly on large rural land holdings, who may not actually be aware of what some of these plants are that are on their properties and the damage that they can cause. So this surveillance program gives us the opportunity to have that dialogue with them, to educate them on these plants, alert them to the available resources to help them manage the problem, and also build their capacity to manage their own land in the future. And an example of that may also be alerting them to the Land for Wildlife program that helps these landowners increase the value of their biodiversity on their land. And if these interactions fail to address the issue, then yes, we do have to regulate and either go in there and do the work or provide some financial incentive for them to do the work themselves. The invasive plant surveillance program is part of the larger plan that sets out the coordinated and cooperative approach to bring everyone together to effectively and efficiently manage invasive plants to minimise their impacts on our broader region. I ask my fellow councillors to take note that properties outside of the surveillance locations that were identified on the map will still be included in the work undertaken as per the recommendation D number 7, which shows that individual properties who have also previously been known to harbour invasive weeds will be part of this program. And I look forward to any debate on this topic and hopefully your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Do we have any other speakers? Appears not. If I may, I might like to ask a question and speak to it. You'll recall that I think in the information sessions I made the point that I understand that this is about surveillance, but to some extent, and it's about the broader issue, you can't manage what you don't understand, so this is a very important mechanism to do that. And I'm pretty confident that our relationship with the private landholders is a good one, as provided, as supported by the data. But I'm less confident that the state understand that their role is absolutely critical. And we can work so hard on our environmental reserves or on the land that we control. The private property can do whatever they can to control this, but if the state aren't coordinated and in sync, we will just chase our tail. So, Mark, would you give us some insight into how we're achieving that level of cooperation and collaboration with the state?
Sure, Acting Mayor. We are actively involved in various regional groups, meeting quarterly for some, annually for others. That includes direct links to Biosecurity Queensland officers, local national parks officers and main roads officers as well. So it is a collective effort, and it is based on the Biosecurity plan for the local government area. All of those institutions are signatories to the biosecurity plan and obviously actively encouraged to contribute where needed. Any investment is certainly welcomed, and essentially the more investment the better. You know, it's a group effort, team effort. If that sort of
Lovely. I'll just qualify. So are you reasonably confident that, one, they're aware of the scope and scale of the issues in our region and have at least somewhere towards an adequate resource allocation to help deal with it?
They're certainly aware of the issues, but it is an ongoing battle to encourage all stakeholders to put as much resources as possible into this area. So that's something I think as a council we sort of certainly encourage and welcome. Looking forward, it's important an area, and healthy environments is benefits for all of us. So it's certainly welcomed any investment.
Lovely, thank you for that response. Councillors, are there any other questions or comments from the floor? There appear not. Would you like to close?
Thank you. Through the Chair, I didn't actually intend to close, but just in response to some of the issues that you raised, I did mention the Invasive Weeds Task Force, which was an initiative that was really prompted by Councillor Johnston and his desire to address weeds in the hinterland. And just to let you know, the makeup of that task force includes 2 Sunshine Coast councillors, a number of council officers, 3 rural producers, 3 not-for-profit community environmental groups, so catchment groups, Sunshine Coast Environment Council, SEQ Water, Department of Environment, Science, National Parks, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, Biosecurity Queensland, and Department of Transport and Main Roads. We also have representatives from Grocom and HQ Plantations, and we also have traditional owner participant. So it is quite a collaborative group. They are all very engaged in this task force and interested in working together. So just if that may allay your concerns, which I think is somewhat slightly outside of this policy, this document that we've got here. But that's all I have to say. Thank you. I look for your support.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. If there are no other comments or questions, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, Mark and Jason. Much appreciated. We'll now move on to item 8.6, and this is the Feral Animal Prevention and Control Program, and presented by Jason Brewer. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Good morning, councillors and the executive leadership team. I'm presenting the Feral Animal Prevention and Control Program. I think this is our 6th presentation to Council on this since the Act came in 2016. So why is the program needed? A carry on from the last report, we need to meet Council's biosecurity obligations under the Biosecurity Act. Section 48 of the Act talks about the key part of the whole Act is about reducing the impacts on human health, social amenity, the economy or the environment. Council receives around 500 requests annually from landholders to address feral animal impacts, and many of those people don't have the tools necessary or the licences or permits or the abilities to conduct that work. So it is a very specialist field that we have officers that have those abilities, and this program provides the authorisation for the feral animal officers to conduct these duties. So how we do this, we assist, educate and skill the community to minimise the impacts from feral animals. We collect data and maintain research. We continue our current surveys of several areas in the region. We offer integrated approaches across the region to combat feral animals. This will permit the destruction of feral animals, and we partner with many organisations. Councillor Suarez mentioned some of those organisations, but we also have many others such as Cool and Coast Care and groups around the region. So this is really more than just a prevention and control program. It's really giving us the skills and abilities to partner with the community and other organisations. And the feral animals that we're looking to control are feral cats, foxes, feral pigs, wild dogs, and dingoes, which is a form of wild dog. the feral deer and rabbits. So the program overview, it's a 3-year program. Again, as I said, it is about community education. Through the environment levy, we have $120,000 per budget to spend on community events and engaging with landholders. That includes, apart from the weed hire in the previous report, we also have other equipment that we can provide for assistance on properties with regards to feral animal control. We assist community members, so we haven't issued any notices on any of these people. It's most of our interactions out of those 500 are all through the landholder inviting us onto their property. It would only be something like an illegal grab it where we're having to use compliance actions. Again, in that approach, we still go in and do the information education first. We survey animal populations, working across land tenures, so it's not just about, as you're aware, feral animals are very mobile, so just because a wild dog is on someone's property today, we know it can travel 100 kilometres in a week. We've tracked that here on the coast. Removing feral animals, so that's through baiting, trapping and field shooting where the risk assessments allow for that. And we're also, as I said before, partnering with a number of organisations including Biosecurity Queensland and the university. So just with the officer recommendation, I'm seeking endorsement for the feral animal prevention control program to give my team the ability to continue the good work that's been supported by this council over the last 10 years or so in particular. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Someone to move? Councillor Cox. Someone to second? Councillor Winston. Would you like to open?
Thank you, Chair. As we've just heard, this is quite an important program for the health of our lands and economy on the Sunshine Coast here. But not only is it important, it's actually a requirement under the Act, which we've just heard, the Biosecurity Act 2014. We need to endorse this before any implementation of the program can actually occur. The program was previously presented to Council annually, and under the most recent review, it identified the option to extend the program to 3 years, which is obviously the recommendation for today. When I read through the report, I see that allowing our officers to focus on those long-term outcomes and reduces some of those administrative imposts that can occur on the annual sort of program. So I think this proposal of a 3-year program is definitely where we need to head, and I'll be supporting that today.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation. I just need to ask a question. Jason, thank you for the report, and also thank you to you and the team for the work that you do in the area of feral animals. We discussed previously about Indian minor birds and the fact that the state has more or less taken them off the list. Are we still going to monitor them and take the necessary controls should that become a problem?
Through Mr. Acting Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor. The Indian Minor program will not change. We'll still provide the same level of support. This is the administrative side of the Biosecurity Act for all the other animals that are prohibited or restricted by a security matter in the Act, which was previously the declared feral animals. We're required to do this process under the Biosecurity Act, but for those locally significant animals that are under our biosecurity plan, Council can choose to provide those services if it wishes. So it's in the top 100 most invasive animals in Australia. Council has supported it through the environment levy funding, so we're providing those free traps out to people and also doing our own work. That's right.
Right, thank you, Jason. I'm sure that a lot of people will be happy to hear that they do become a problem in certain areas. I'm more than happy to vote in favour of the resolution and support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Any other questions or comments? Well, if I may, I might ask a question. Councillor Jones, similar, this is a control program, not surveillance, so perhaps a bit more on target. What collaboration and cooperation will we get from the state to make sure that our program is linked with their resources and is successful, as it can be?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. In similar response as Mark Call gave to the previous report, we have those same regional meetings, and also now with technology getting a bit smarter with Microsoft Teams, we're in a lot more constant interaction now with Biosecurity. I met with Biosecurity Queensland last week on a local level, and on the task force with Councillor Suarez on Tuesday, so we're meeting a lot more. We're now having hookups with our local government association of Queensland on other matters, so there is a lot more communication. And our programs, some of the programs that we talk about, like the Coolum Coast Care, the Coolum Fox Control Program, Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service, and Council, we're working regularly together with them, along with the other adjoining councils. So as Mark said before, we're meeting with Moreton, Noosa, Somerset and those other councils regularly.
That's reassuring. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Councillor Law?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. An excellent programme. We're required to keep doing it, but I think it's essential we keep doing it. Is the education programme for the broader community, not necessarily landowners, is that strong enough to support the correct management and ownership around particularly cats, but also dogs, and not allowing them out into the environment to do huge amounts of damage to the native wildlife? Does this enable us to do enough work in that space?
Through you, Chair. Thanks for the question. The animal management side of things is through the response services team, but I can talk about how when we go to community events like the agricultural shows, we do a joint community response stall. So we're side by side with whether it's environmental operations with landfill wildlife that Councillor Suarez talked about before, or response services with the responsible pet ownership. Council has as far as feral cats or roaming cats, we have the free cat cage service that runs out of Sippy Creek Pound, or for feral animal control, we'll drop the cage off. So there's a number of different mechanisms in place for responsible cat ownership, as well as in response service we have, as you know, the registration of cats and dogs. So we've got multiple levels of methods to respond to that.
That's great, thank you very much, because I see there's a greyness between a pet and a feral animal, particularly in terms of dogs and cats, and I'm pleased to hear your response that we're doing work in that area to help control the number of pets who become feral animals, because obviously we want that to be zero and pets to remain as pets. Obviously, I want to speak in support of the motion. The work you do is really important, but also make an appeal to our whole community to work with us on this, particularly around that component of maintaining pets as pets at all times and making sure that the cats and dogs are not destroying our wildlife that we're working so hard to protect. And I think I heard earlier there are something like 53,000 dogs. I didn't hear how many cats are properly registered, but I suspect it's not nearly enough. And we need cat owners to come forward to make sure that they know how to register their cat, how to look after their cat properly so it doesn't become a feral cat. Or I think you used the term a roaming cat. And that sort of indicates that sort of uncertain area of how do we control feral cats. So I wish you well in that, and I fully support what you're doing, and I urge and encourage our community to get educated and support us in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. There appear to be no other questions or comments. So, Councillor Cox, do you wish to close? No. So we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mike. We'll move on to item 8.7, which is the Community Partnership Funding Program recommendations. And we'd like to invite Margaret to the rostrum. Whenever you're ready, Margaret.
Yes. Good morning to the Chair and councillors. This report seeks council consideration and endorsement of the funding recommendations of the 2022 Community Partnership Funding Program. This program is just a component of the suite of council funding programs that are on offer each year. Each program has a specific purpose and is a strategic investment tool contributing to the achievement of council and community priorities. By supporting a diverse range of community-led projects, events, services and facilities, these programs enable council to collaborate and partner with community, and they acknowledge the valuable contribution that volunteers make to the region's social well-being, economic prosperity and cultural life. During 21-22 financial year, a total of 875 grants were allocated, providing over $4.6 million in funding to the community. But today, we're focused on the Community Partnership Funding Program, which was established in 2010 to provide some certainty to community groups by granting up to 3 years of funding to contribute to their operational expenses, the most difficult type of funding to secure externally. It's open to well-established not-for-profit community organisations that provide facilities and services which support the delivery of council's priorities and demonstrate very broad community benefit. A review of that program undertaken in 2020-21 identified that it is achieving its purpose in delivering outcomes in line with council's corporate priorities. It strengthens the connection between council and community, and it actually increased resilience, community resilience during COVID-19. The current 3-year cycle of the program commenced last financial year, with 136 organisations awarded multiple year funding totalling $965,495. It was determined that a maximum of 2 years of funding be allocated this year to bring new allocations in line with the existing agreements, which will end on 30th of June 2024. The 2022 program was promoted through direct contact with organisations identified as potential new partners, as well as on Council's website and through our grants e-news and other internal e-news heading out to the community. It included an initial expression of interest process designed to identify potential partners and save any organisations with limited alignment to the program priorities from actually the time-consuming process of completing a full application. This step also allows council officers representing the various categories to assist applicants with proposal development and negotiation of partnership deliverables and measures. At the close of the application period, council had received a total of 5 applications requesting $43,000 in funding. Assessment of these applications was based on general program criteria and category criteria, and was there are 3 stages. There's an eligibility stage, it's undertaken by grants officers. There's then a panel meeting made up of officers with expertise in the various areas with the groups involved, and then there's a strategic assessment by the relevant branch managers. And this report recommends a total of $31,500 per year for all 5 of those groups to join the program for the next 2 years, and the details are provided in Appendix A of the report. So this budget, the Community Partnership Funding Program budget, is sufficient to support these partnerships, And as this is a multi-year program, you can see there are implications for the 2023-24 budget as well, as in that table. And just based on the self-reported statistics that is provided by the applicants, this funding of $31,500 will support approximately 713 registered members, 109 volunteers and 195 hours of operation per week. When this is added to the financial support provided through existing partnership, this program will now support approximately 42,393 registered members, 12,426 volunteers, and a total of 6,934 hours of operation per week. I seek Council endorsement of the officer recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Councillor, someone to move. Councillor Law, someone seconding. Councillor Suarez, would you care to open?
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Margaret. Fantastic report. As always, I would be speaking to support the continuation of the Community Partnership Programme. The programme delivers outstanding results, as you have described in your presentation today, and is also detailed very clearly in the report. The work that are done by our volunteer organisations across the whole Sunshine Coast is invaluable, whether it's sports, economic development, cultural or the arts. The work done is remarkable, and I'm delighted that we have a programme such as this that provides some security and certainty for those organisations, usually run by volunteer members of the community, that they know that they have that funding there to help them each year in their basic requirements. I urge my colleagues to support this. Thank you very much for making this programme happen, and I know that the 5 organisations who are coming into the programme will be incredibly grateful for what this will allow them to achieve and to secure their future for the next 2 years. Thank you, and I look for some support today.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Any other questions or comments from the floor? Councillors, I might just ask a quick question. Margaret, of the 5 applicants, I believe one of them's Arts Connect. It is in the open section, so I'm not revealing anything that shouldn't be revealed, but could you just confirm that should this be endorsed, that would provide 2 years support to an organisation that was mentioned earlier on as very much needing support for part of their program, which is Sculpture on the Edge. Am I correct in describing it in that way?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. This support will provide operational support for that group to keep the organisation, help them functioning and there throughout the year. That group will also be looking to the Major Grants Program for some support specifically for Sculpture on the Edge for an event through specifically event funding as well. We expect, that is.
Thank you. I wanted some reassurance to the Council on that front. So, any other questions or comments? No. In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Margaret, for your report. We'll move on to item 8.8, which is the major event sponsorship of the Ironman 70.3. And I'd like to welcome Lucy Ravenwood to the rostrum to do the presentation. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair, Madam CEO, Councillors and ELT. Good morning. I'm here to discuss the Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast for 2023 to 25. And just a reminder that the information contained in the attachment is confidential. So the Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast was launched in 2013 and has been supported by Council since its inception, along with Tourism and Events Queensland, and TQ have also committed to supporting this event as a sponsor for the next 3 years as well. So Ironman 70.3 is the largest and most successful triathlon type event in Australia and aligns with Council's major event strategy to be a premier regional events destination. And the event has proven to, in the past, provide significant economic, profiling and reputational benefits to the region. In staging the event in Mooloolaba, the Ironman does impact locals and businesses through road closures and event setup. However, the benefits to the community at large far outweigh the impacts in the short term. So the Ironman 70.3 does have a lesser impact than the Mooloolaba Tri in terms of road closures and setup due to the smaller number of participants. And also through Council's guidance, the event organiser has significantly worked to reduce the amount of time impacting road closures and the event set up so that it minimises that impact on local businesses and the community. So in terms of the economic impact from visitation, that will follow, and we expect that the economic impact from this event will increasingly revert back to pre-COVID conditions and expectations. So just to reiterate that the benefits for the region do far outweigh those short-term impacts on the community and the local business community. With regard to event sustainability, Ironman is a leader in this space and does enact best practice, embracing a triple bottom line with economic, social and environmental sustainability, looking to achieve emissions targets below Australian standards and also working towards becoming a carbon neutral event. Some of their initiatives do include having compostable water cups at their aid stations, as well as bottle refilling facilities, reusable signage ties and all electronic documentation rather than hard copy. With regard to future planning for 2023 to 25, we are working with the promoter to maximise local business interaction between themselves and the Mooloolaba business community and local community, and to utilise their national profile and their extensive reach to promote other council initiatives, as well as tourism attractions that their attendees can take part in while they're here, and also cross-promoting other major events in the area. And we'll continue to work in partnership with Ironman to minimise the impacts for the community and to maximise the benefits across the region. So the recommendation of the Tourism and Major Events Unit, which is supported by the Sunshine Coast Events Board, is to receive and note the report titled Major Event Sponsorship, Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast 2023 to 25, and to authorise the CEO to negotiate and execute that contract for this event.
Thank you very much, Councillors. Before I look for a move, I'd just like to remind you that in any questions or debate on this item, the amount is in a confidential section. So if you do wish to debate that element, we will need to go into confidential. So having said that, someone to move. Councillor Natoli, seconded. Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Natoli, would you like to open?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you so much for the work that you've done with this particular event. I know the conflicts with the retailers, with the triathlon, and obviously the Ironman has always been a major issue, and I wish I could get the Chamber more excited about the opportunities that I think they're missing by not really being open to exploring those further. So I really appreciate, especially Toby Keegan's involvement in willing to work with us. We challenged them. We've asked them to open up their database to be able to enable us to communicate to the 33,000 people in their database, and that's going to be a positive for Mooloolaba. We hope people will come back, be able to know what other events are on, cultural events, and take advantage of any opportunity that they and their families and friends can come to Mooloolaba. Obviously, it's an outstanding event. It works well in Mooloolaba. It has, along with the triathlon, become a very premier event on the Australian calendar. So I just want to, again, just mention the fact that this year we do have the Moon Festival that's going to be held in conjunction. It was unfortunate that it clashed, but I think it's an opportunity again to explore how we can see that collaboration. And again, I want to thank Toby's willingness to work with them, and the same with the organisers of the Moon Festival. But it should be a good night, and hopefully with the movies on the Friday night and the main event on the Saturday, the people will come in. Plenty of car parks in Mooloolaba now. They can come and park all day for $5, and enjoy the opportunities, and hopefully that component could be some indicator of how we can work closely in the future to make these more than just a one-dimensional event. If they become multi-dimensional, I'll be extremely excited.
Thank you, Councillor Tony. Of course, we wouldn't have waves without the moon, so not a bad combination. Any other? Oh, sorry, Councillor Landsberg. Over to you.
Thank you, and through the chair, and thank you for those words from the Divisional Councillor, Councillor Joe. In the agenda review, obviously for this event, it went down into quite a few details about what the benefit of this event brings to the region, and obviously the other opportunities that we see with cross-training for future Olympians as well must not be denied. I think this is a wonderful event that will showcase our region. It's great to see the participation numbers obviously heavily favoured in Queenslanders at 54%, and I know we're an outdoor-loving community, and we love to see many of our locals race along the foreshore there at Diddillibah. It follows obviously our council vision, obviously, and you spoke earlier with our major event strategy, of being a region that's recognised for major events and a destination. But importantly, we've got to continue to, and I know there are impacts to our business community on the coast here, and it's great to see that we're going to work with them and try and collaborate a little bit better in terms of obviously road issues, parking, impacts to the businesses, and that's a way of moving forward. I think as we move in towards the next 10 years of the Olympics, which is less than 10 years, I think it's the 8th of August 2032, the Olympics, we've really got to hit the road running, so well done. But yeah, look forward to the support of the rest of our councillors here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Are there any other questions or comments from the floor? There appear not. Just checking, Councillor Dixon. No. So in that case, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We're now on to our late item 8.9. Last item to the day by the looks of things. So I'll call Craig Matheson to the pedestal to present the report. Thank you, Craig.
Good morning, councillors. Through the chair, the report that was tabled and accepted onto the agenda this morning as a late report seeks your consideration of a proposal for the Mayor to participate in an international delegation led by the Council of Mayors South East Queensland to San Francisco, Vancouver and Los Angeles for a period of 10 days in February 2023. I apologise for the lateness of this report. This is a proposal that the Council of Mayors has been looking at since late April, but I only received advice from them at 5:07 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon that they had negotiated group booking arrangements for attendees on the delegation, and those arrangements needed to be confirmed within 2 days, which I was able to ask them to see if they could extend an extra day, noting that our council meeting is today. We, of course, could not confirm that the Mayor is able to participate in the delegation because it involves obviously international travel, and the Mayor cannot do that in an official capacity without authorisation from Council, hence the need for the late report for your consideration today. Had that not been the case, this would have come to you in the normal course of events through at an appropriate Council meeting. The importance of this delegation is really about the opportunity to position South East Queensland in the eyes of similar regions, particularly those who have had experience either in the hosting of Olympic events, which is the case of Vancouver, which has hosted the Winter Olympics, or in the case of Los Angeles, which will be hosting the 2028 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games, and to explore the opportunities with them in relation to how they've leveraged the benefits from the trade and investment and community outcome from the staging those games. It's also the opportunity for the councils of South East Queensland to capitalise on and learn from the experiences of other councils that have been grappling with some of the same issues that the councils of South East Queensland have been dealing with and are currently dealing with, including issues around things like housing affordability, waste management and resource recovery, mass transit and smart mobility solutions, and also how to best promote city regions for trade and investment purposes. Pardon me. As you will have seen from the report that has been circulated, it is proposed that the delegation would also visit the premises of WISC who recently entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Council of Mayors, South East Queensland, for the purposes of establishing their Australian presence in South East Queensland. And so this is a prime opportunity, I guess, for the credentials of the Sunshine Coast to be presented to WISC in the context of considering the Sunshine Coast as its potential base in Australia. The opportunity will also be taken with the delegation to establish an ongoing collaboration agreement with Metro Vancouver, given matters of comparable interests between South East Queensland and Vancouver. 10 of the 11 members of the Council of Mayors South East Queensland, that 10 includes Sunshine Coast. Should you be favourably disposed to support this report, will be participating in the delegation, and the delegation will be led by the chair of the Council of Mayors, which is the Lord Mayor of the City of Brisbane. Our view collectively is that this would be a lost opportunity for the Sunshine Coast were it not to participate in the delegation to North America in February, and hence the proposal that is before you today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, someone to move? Councillor Landsberg, seconded Councillor Cox. Councillor Landsberg, would you like to open?
Through the Chair. Thank you, and thank you for the late report, Craig. Obviously, it's so important to see our Mayor represent our region, and it's such an opportunity to join with this delegation. As we know, previously our Mayor has been extremely proactive in promoting our region, not only here in Queensland, but interstate and internationally as well. The opportunity to travel across into America to San Francisco, Vancouver and Los Angeles obviously is a wonderful time for us to leverage off some of the opportunities that we're going to see impacted to those regions, especially with our transit issues, waste management, housing affordability, how they move large numbers of people around their regions. As well as you touched on WISC's MOU that they've signed here as well. It's so important for us as a region that we could leverage off the opportunities to see that input into our region. It's just a wonderful time for us as well, especially where we're positioned with our aviation industries. I'd also like to say just quickly that I did get the dates for the Olympics as well, and it's so important to make sure I acknowledge that. It's actually the 23rd of July and then finishes on the 8th of August. And thank you to the CEO that just pulled me up on that, but my apologies. But this is just a wonderful opportunity. I also support in the papers provided that we could see an officer as well accompanying our Mayor as well on this trip, so I'd hope that our CEO takes up that opportunity as well for someone to participate as well. So look forward to your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. We have Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have a question. In light of some recent exposés from other local authorities, I'd like to ask Mr Matheson. I had trouble with your name for a second. I wanted to be sure. I wanted the ratepayers to be assured that although we have an extremely frugal and sensible mayor, that there'll be no side trips or external entertainment, etc., paid for by the ratepayers on this trip. other than those associated with the tour?
Through the Chair, Councillor, there's a fairly comprehensive program that has been put together. I've had the privilege to travel with the Mayor on several occasions on international delegations now. There's never been instances where other than scheduled activities have taken place. So to that extent, I would be able to offer you that assurance. With the exception, it's not the exception. What we do, however, particularly where there is participation in a program that is organised by a third party, which in this case would be Council of Mayors, is we also look at complementary opportunities in those locations if there are particular meetings that can be arranged that are specifically to advance the interests solely of Sunshine Coast Council with particular parties, then the opportunity will be taken to augment the program to enable those meetings to occur. But as I said, they are all business related, and that is a common practice which we have followed when there have been other international delegations which the Mayor's participated on where those delegations have been organised by third parties.
Should that be the case, and thank you very much for the assurance.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Law.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. A couple of questions, if I may. I'd just like to understand what are the funding arrangements of ComSec? How is ComSec funded?
Through the Chair, ComSec is funded through contributions from the member councils. So we make an annual contribution to the budget of ComSec, as do all of the councils that are members of ComSec. As you know, the Gold Coast City Council is not a member of ComSec, so it's the only South East Queensland Council that does not contribute. ComSec also receives grant funding for specific projects, so projects that it may apply for and so forth, but they're the principal sources of revenue for ComSec, bank interest and so forth as well. Goes with that.
Do you know the level of contribution this council is making to ComSec at the moment?
Yes, I can tell you that precisely. The contribution that council is making in terms of its annual membership fee for the current financial year, 2022-2023, is $199,000.
Thank you for that. In relation to all of the travel arrangements and everything involved, I see that ComSec are funding the whole trip, with the exception of business class air travel. Could you let me know what is the level of air travel being provided by ComSec under the package?
Economy class air travel, but I have, through the Chair, I should say, my apologies. Councillor, ComSec is prepared to cover the cost of economy class air travel. I have inquired with and have been advised by ComSec that all of the council nominated delegates, so the elected representatives that are attending, all bar one, have chosen to seek an upgrade to the class of air travel that's being provided.
Okay. And maybe to yourself or perhaps to the CEO, if a staff member is also to attend, that's entirely at the council's cost. Do we know the cost of that staff member? What would that be in addition to the 12,000 mentioned here? And what level of travel would be provided?
Sure. So, through the Chair, if a staff member attends, it's council policy that travel is at economy for staff is at economy class level of travel unless otherwise approved by the CEO. So the cost of air travel for the staff member would be in the order, if it's under the package that has been negotiated by ComSec, the cost of air travel would be in the order of around $2,360. I don't have the accommodation rates, I'm sorry, because all of the accommodation for should the Mayor attend, and that's all been organised by ComSec. So the accommodation for the officer would need to be met by council, the on-ground transport would be met by ComSec because they'd be travelling with the rest of the party. So that expense would be covered by ComSec.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, I should add though, it remains, however, a decision for the CEO to make as to whether or not an officer will accompany the delegation or not.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I want to either make an amendment to the resolution. On behalf of the people that I represent, I'm unable to endorse and support business class travel. It doesn't matter how you travel, you'll get there. And I think to me, and I think to perhaps a lot of people that I would represent, that's unnecessary. I fully support our involvement and the Mayor travelling and a staff member travelling on this, but I just can't get beyond item C up there. So I would like to suggest that we find a way to remove that component of this, and then I'll be able to support it. So I would perhaps seek some advice on, do I need to suggest an amendment to that removes the component of funding business class travel? I'd need help with the wording of how to do that.
Councillor, you'd have to move an amendment to recommendation C.
I'd like to move an amendment to that and have some assistance of which words need to be removed that enable the trip to go ahead as per the report, but without supporting business class travel.
Give the meeting management a moment to construct that so we can see it on screen, and then I'll seek a seconder, and then you can argue your case. Sorry, Councillor Natoli, do you have a point to make?
Thank you. Just waiting for the microphone. Somewhere I read that part of the agreement, if the Mayor does travel overseas, he does travel business class. My understanding is that as part of the policies of Council, is if the Mayor does travel, he does travel business class. That's part of our policy.
I think that's part of the debate should this amendment get up, and you would...
I was... Somewhere I read that the Mayor... that Council's policy is that if the Mayor was to travel, then he's entitled to travel business class.
Oh, you're saying that if it's a policy position, that's a moot point?
That's the point I'm trying to make. If it's a Council policy, then we really need to amend the policy rather than deal with it ad hoc. I just don't think we should be making these decisions based on, a feeling. I know that when I was a Mayor, I travelled economy class, but that's a decision. But if we have a policy that states that the Mayor does travel business class, then I think, we need to understand that policy is an endorsed policy of Council.
Thank you.
And we should stick to that.
So could we just clarify, does the policy, in essence, give no choice that it is a business class travel for the Mayor?
Through the Chair, my recollection, and I'd have to go and look up the policy myself to absolutely confirm, but my recollection is there is a reference to the Mayor being able to travel business class if approved by the CEO. But I would have to, please don't take that as gospel, I would actually need to go and confirm that.
CEO?
Through you, Acting Mayor, I just wanted to clarify, and I think it's an important note, the decision about travelling business class or economy class is not about status. It's about effectiveness of people when they're travelling. I know these are hard conversations and people will make assumptions, and there are many people who may not have travelled long distances in the past. But I think in this occasion, this is from my opinion, it's a very short-term trip. It doesn't allow for lots of rest and recovery in it. Having been on some of these trips in the past, they run at a pace, and they try and get as much out of the trip while they're over there, and seeing lots of things. They're on the move a lot. It's probably very physically exhausting. So part of this is about considering productivity of an individual and taking the most out of an opportunity whilst they are travelling and working that through. I believe our policy statements, as referred to by Mr Matheson, gives an ability, and certainly if those trips had a very short turnaround and someone wasn't taking extra time. I know some companies actually add travel days in lieu of travelling business class so that people can have that proper rest at the end of a long-term flight, so that they're acting appropriately and they're able to act to their full capability once they're in there. So whilst in my role as CEO, I'll be able to approve this. I think there are a couple of things. One is that, as Mr Matheson outlined, any travel by the Mayor overseas must be approved by Council. So regardless of whether it's economy or business class, it has to be approved by you. And to be fully transparent, this is included within the paper here that the Mayor is seeking to travel business class, and I want just to make that clear for Council.
Thank you. I think you've provided a very good context for consideration of this amendment, but I think it is appropriate that we now consider the amendment. So having a look at here, councillors, you can see that essentially the portion in red is, are you satisfied that if that's removed, that covers your intent?
Through the Deputy Mayor, for what that is, I mean, obviously it still remains in the report. I would like to note that there was a good deal of discussion about the amendment before it was even there. That's disappointing. The discussion should happen, and I know that I didn't give any warning for this, but the discussion on the amendment should happen once the amendment is agreed, not while it's trying to be composed, having me put meeting management on the spot to help me come up with an alternative, and I'm disappointed by that.
Noted.
So with the help that I've had to change that, yes, I would like to move that change to the motion be considered.
Thank you. So can I get a seconder? Councillor Suarez, would you like to speak to the motion now?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the support to discuss this.
So you're speaking to the amendment, Tom?
Yeah,
just to be technically correct.
To the amendment, and the reason why I would like the amendment to be considered. I have worked my whole career in the not-for-profit sector, and I have travelled extensively, both nationally and internationally, to do that. And I've never done so at anything other than economy class. There have been some occasional premium economy when that became a thing. I was responsible for 70 locations across the eastern side of Australia, from Cairns to Hobart, and I visited those places frequently and twice a year usually. I've also attended European conferences as part of my role in the disability services sector, and it's about how you prepare prior to the journey, what you do on the journey, and yes, you can work very effectively even in economy or premium economy. I accept the points made of wanting to ensure that you arrive at your destination fully capable to perform the role that you have been sent there to do. Because whether you go economy or business or whatever, it's an expensive outlay, and you want to get the best out of it, absolutely. So I have no dispute with any element of this report. I have no dispute that we should be represented with ComSec on this delegation overseas for all of the benefits that will bring to our community, our economy, and the future of the Sunshine Coast. But I regard the Sunshine Coast Council as representing our whole community, and I regard it as a not-for-profit organisation. We are here for the benefit of our community. We are not here to create a profit. We're here for our community, and I just cannot support personally this type of travel. And I think I probably speak for a good deal of our community, and as a community portfolio representative, I suspect I speak for a large portion of our community on this matter. So I'm sorry to take this into one tiny item, but to me it's a very, very significant item. And I would look for support around this, and I suggest that it gives us an opportunity that we have some policies that need review if we are going to properly represent our people and make sure they can do everything they need to do to effectively represent the Sunshine Coast, wherever that is in Australia or across the world. So I would look for some support in this. Thank you for allowing me the amendment and seeking for support that, yes, the Mayor should attend, but it's attending in a reasonable way in terms of the costs involved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Law. So, councillors, essentially we need to vote this to become the motion. Yeah. So remind yourself that you're speaking to the amendment, and Councillor Cox, I think you're next up.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the record, I think I was next in line to speak to the original motion, so I'd like that noted, please. But in speaking with this amendment, I won't be supporting it. I can understand what Councillor Law's proposing, but I think you'd find, Councillor, that if you did speak with the majority of our ratepayers, they would expect the Mayor to be travelling business class. This is for a ComSet meeting. All the other delegates would be travelling business class. He would be able to have those conversations with the fellow delegates in transit. I think it'd be very unusual for him to be sitting in economy during this particular trip. So I won't be supporting it here today, and I look forward to being able to speak to the original motion when.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Appreciate it. So, Councillor Hungerford, speaking to the amendment, should it become the motion?
Just to clarify the wording up there. Authorise the expenditure of reasonable additional costs of up to $12,000 by Council to cover the balance of air travel and other incidental costs.
So that's the bit being removed in red.
You wanted to remove that out of there?
No, just up to 12,000.
See, I've got a different one down here to what's up there. I'm getting. So you're taking in red out?
No, not all. With the line.
No. Yeah, see, I've got a line struck through down here, but it wasn't up there. I had two different things. The screen in front of me and what was up there.
Yeah, so can we get clarification from meeting management what the motion is?
Is it? I was trying to see it there and I was looking at it down there.
Yeah. So it reads as, authorise the expenditure of
reasonable additional costs
by council
to cover the balance of
the balance is out to cover other incidental costs.
Okay. I'll be speaking against this and I'll explain why. Remember when we had the entitlements policy for meals and breakfast and everything else, and we brought in figures for limits there? What we're doing was we're actually limiting it, reducing the cost, but we got criticised publicly for putting amounts there. Before that, you could spend whatever you liked, and it wasn't even accounted for. We actually put a ceiling there. By taking this out, I prefer to have a figure there that gives a ceiling, the amount that most that can be spent, because that controls expenditure. Otherwise, another incidental costs, if there's no ceiling limit there, it means the figure can go to whatever. And I don't see accountability in that. I believe the original one, having all the incidental costs, travel and everything, with a figure there limiting the maximum amount that can be spent, is actually accountability. What we're doing here now is just opening it up to where whatever costs are incurred, whatever they come to, that's fine, it's accepted, with no limit. So I see that as actually going backwards. And with my financial hat on, I'd rather have a figure there as a limit for all costs, because that gives greater accountability. So I cannot support this.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, through the Chair. I thank the Council for bringing this amendment up, but I can't support it. If you look at, obviously, the itinerary, you've got 10 days, it's back-to-back, it's an extremely busy period of time to be with that delegation, but as we know, the last time the Mayor travelled overseas was 2019, and I can guarantee, as a leader of our region, representing Sunshine Coast Council, he will be working the moment he sits on that plane. and the ability for them to interact as a delegation will start the moment they leave Brisbane, or whether it's Sydney, wherever they're flying out of. But I won't be supporting this, and obviously it's if I was a mayor, I'd like to just make a comment that I would actually request to fly business class as well myself, because I feel I've flown economy class to America before, and the length of time, it's happy to do it obviously on my own personal basis, but you know, the ability to get over there and get stuck into your work and feel fresh, I think anything we can provide during the trip should be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Suarez.
Just have a question for Craig Matheson, just in relation to this with the figures. What's the difference? We had a figure of 2,360 for an economy class flight. What's the cost for a business class flight?
The cost of the difference.
Yes, the difference,
the difference is 10,900.
Thank you.
So the balance that makes up the 12,000 is for incidental costs.
Thank you, councillors. There appears to be no other speakers or questions. So, as there are no other speakers or questions, I'll put it to the... Sorry, you close. My apologies.
Thank you very much for the conversation. I think whether or not other councils choose to allow business class travel to occur is a matter for those councils, not this council. I note the comment of we've taken out a number. We've just heard that we could replace the 12,000 with 2,900 being the difference between business and economy class. And if it pleases that it might change the outcome, then I'd be happy to reinsert a number. But for the doing this on the run, on a late report, then I didn't put a number in there and left the word reasonable, because it's all about the air travel, because you'll see that the air travel has been removed. So I think making a point about whether there's a number or not is a distraction, but I'd happily put one in if you would allow it.
Just to advise you can't amend an amendment. Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So do people expect the Mayor to travel business class? I'm not sure. I think that's more of a reflection of who you talk to and the circles that you move in, whether or not you would agree with that point of view. So I remain resolute in my opinions that it is possible to be effective no matter how you travel and how you get there. And I would like to see and hope that there is some support for what is being put here and what I've asked to occur. And would we be better off, I don't know, paying that difference? If we're going to be giving money away, let's pay the difference for carbon credits to offset the cost of flying in terms of emissions. But that's a whole other debate. So thank you for allowing this to occur. I'm looking for support today so that we have the right kind of, I don't know the right word. We represent our community in the best and most equitable way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. So, councillors are now voting on this amendment to become the motion. Those in favour, please indicate now. So we have Councillor Law, Councillor Suarez. Those against? Councillor Landsberg, Councillor Cox, Councillor Natoli, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Hungerford, Councillor Barbarosky. The motion is lost. My apologies, Councillor Dixon. It reverts back to an opportunity to consider the original officer recommendation. Do I have somebody to move? You don't need to. So it's already been moved. It's already been moved. My apologies, it's already been moved. Councillor Cox, and seconded by?
No,
Councillor Cox. Sorry, Councillor Landsberg seconded. Yes, so Councillor Landsberg. So Councillor Cox, you're now ready to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the late report, Mr. Matheson. I only had the opportunity to read through that last night, And when I was looking through the itinerary, I did note that it's a fairly compact time frame to get all those meetings in. But I suppose we haven't had one of these reports come to council for a number of years because of international travel being suspended with the pandemic. So these were often reported to council probably on an annual basis. So some of the newer councillors wouldn't have had this experience yet. I see this as an investment into the Sunshine Coast. Obviously the delegation's heading over there with clear agenda, and they're looking at those discussions on housing affordability, waste, mass transit, and some of the legacy planning for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, which you mentioned throughout your presentation. So, as I said, I see this as an investment into the Sunshine Coast. We need to be looking at what's best practice, what ideas, new ideas are out there, that information exchange. It is such an essential part of the Sunshine Coast moving forward and not being left behind. I know that we all have the ability to attend professional development conferences, and I certainly try and take my opportunity to educate myself further in those new areas as much as I can. And I see this as being a great example for the Mayor to really participate in those discussions on those topics and bring that knowledge back to the Sunshine Coast for our community's benefit long term. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Landsberg.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And there's probably no reason.
He's open, so do you wish to ask a question? You can close. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I totally agree that it's appropriate that the Mayor does go on these trips. He is seen as a leader. He's obviously the leader of our LGAQ. For him to be able to go on these trips and to be able to represent our region, I think is really a critical part of his job. That's why he gets paid more than what we do. That's why, there is an element of his role as our leader to represent us and have that status. And I think it's appropriate that he's able to do that in his full capacity, and that we should support him in that role. So that's the reason why I've decided to endorse this report and acknowledge the work that ComSec do. They're a leading organisation. When you have a look at the work that they do compared to other areas of Australia, they are really at the forefront. They are driving policy and driving action, and it's needed. South East Queensland is under enormous pressure, and they do have their finger on the pulse, and it's important for them to be able to go and have a look at other areas that are experiencing similar issues that we have, and look at the opportunities like with the Olympics that we're going to have. So I think it's appropriate that we do support this resolution in its entirety as it is up there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Natoli. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Mr. Chair, let's get a bit of reality about this. We're actually setting a figure there which gives a limit. And that figure is $12,000. It's a 10-day event. You divide that, it's $1,200 a day. Let's get some reality around this, how you travel and where you're staying and all the rest of it. That's for air travel and incidental costs. It's not a big figure. It's actually been fairly lean, actually. And that's to be met from the existing budget of the Office of the Mayor. So it's coming out of an existing budget and allowance at sea. I believe that we're going off the rails here. This is getting very petty, in my opinion. And the Mayor's going over representing it as a major thing. And we're going to quibble about which plane seat he sits on, when we're setting a limit for the total expenditure? I think we really need some reality here, so I'll be supporting this today. I think it's really disappointing that we've had to come down to this argument about $12,000 in total, $1,200 a day for a 10-day event for the Mayor to represent us overseas. I just get a little bit passionate and I want to keep things in reality. So I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Suarez.
Thank you for this. I agree with many other comments that the other councillors have made about the value that having the Mayor attend this event will bring to our council and our region. When you look at the topics, these are topics that we have, heard from not just our general community, but the media. Everyone is hammering home this council. What are you doing in terms of housing affordability? What are you doing in terms of transportation? What are you doing in terms of circular economy and tech and all of those sorts of things? This agenda item or this schedule that the Mayor will be attending will gather some valuable insights to bring back to this council, and I completely support him going on this trip. However, I also do congratulate Councillor Law for thinking the way that he does in terms of how we actually spend our money and are we doing it in the most fruitful way as possible. I know that it was lost, but I congratulate you for raising it in its first instance. I will be supporting this report because I think the benefits that the Mayor will bring back will be invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Councillor Law.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. I want to be really clear. The report and the intent of what should be achieved from being on this visit is absolutely supported by me, and yes, we should be doing it. This is one petty item that's actually not so petty. So I'm told we have to have some reality that it's only going to cost $1,200 per day to do this. Let's actually think that through to the reality. This is costing $199,000 to be a member of ComSec. For whatever reason, ComSec are funding the whole trip, including airfares. So if we went with what ComSec were proposing, this would actually be $0 additional dollars to council. Not 1,200, actually 0. So if we had on our report here that the Mayor is going to attend this delegation overseas to North America, it will cost nothing. But we have chosen to add in the option to travel business class. So do we know why ComSec didn't want everyone to travel business class? What are the reasons that they deemed the package they put together for travel to make this whole thing take place? They thought what they put forward was reasonable. We're saying we think that's unreasonable. Now, I don't actually think this is a petty conversation in any shape or form at all. Yes, we should be doing this. The issue I have raised is not whether the Mayor, whether anybody, when they're representing this council, needs to travel business class. I say they don't. I think there's a bit of an element here.
You're bordering on re-prosecuting your original argument, but please.
Sorry, I'm speaking to the motion.
Yeah, but the element you're speaking to is...
No, everyone else spoke about the travel.
Element.
Everyone else spoke about the travel too. I'm allowed to talk about the travel again.
Carry on.
Thank you. No one should be travelling business class representing this council. That is the only point I wish to make here. And it's not petty, it's a harsh reality of the world we live in today. So, on the basis of the travel component of this report, I cannot support it. And I think you've heard enough of my reasons why. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Law. Councillor Dixon.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Is Mr. Matheson still there?
Yes,
we're hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. If I could just ask a question to Mr. Matheson through the chair. Has the Mayor ever flown business class on any of his international endeavours, working for Council?
Through the chair, sorry, Councillor, did you say in terms of international business?
Sure.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just a bit of a reality check here. I've never received any feedback in terms of the Mayor's international endeavours or travels. Now, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you support the Mayor or not. He works hard. The Mayor certainly works hard in everything he does. So any time advantage we can provide the Mayor in his endeavours is something of benefit. If this was the Premier, Deputy Premier, Minister, a federal member, we wouldn't be having this discussion in terms of business class. It's just assumed that people in these positions will be given that level of travel to optimise their working conditions in that travel pursuit. If it was the CEO, I wouldn't even be having this discussion either. I just would assume that we would be providing that level of travel comfort to optimise the working condition. For me, I've supported the Mayor travelling in this fashion previously, and I'll be doing it again. I just want to make the point that there was no big discussion on councillors' pay rises as we've had today on international first-class travel. So let's just keep a bit of perspective. When pay rises for councillors were discussed, we didn't want to bring it to the public forum. So we'll just have a bit of a reality check on that. And I will be supporting this endeavour today.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Any other questions or comments from the floor? If there aren't, I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Matheson, assuming this is supported today, will there be a follow-up report or some sort of way of gauging the success or otherwise of this trip back to Council on the outcomes?
Acting Mayor, yes, the report before Council indicates that there will be a report back from the Mayor to the councillors on the outcomes of the delegation. I just wanted to make that point because that refocuses on the intent of this recommendation, in my view. Councillors, if there's no other questions or comments, no. Pardon? Yep, we'll just invite Councillor Landsberg to close.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and no need really to go right into the report. I think it's been quite detailed with the comments from our councillors. I just wanted to touch on something Councillor David made, a comment about the circles we're moving. I can assure you, Councillor David, the circles that I move in and the circles our fellow councillors move in is fully supportive of our community. I know we go to great lengths to support our non-for-profits, our Indigenous chapters, our disability sector. We absolutely go above and beyond what other councillors do for our region and to bring everyone along for the ride. And I think as we have a responsibility to show that we are together moving forward in this region, that there is a lot of social issues out there in our community, and my priority is that we really need to show that cohesion. I respect your position on this, and I know it's obviously there's been some comments about it, but I'd just like to say that really don't detract from the wonderful work this council does and the wonderful decisions we've made in this chamber to support people that are in a lesser position than we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. That was the close, so we'll put this item to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation. It's Councillor Landsberg, Councillor Cox, Councillor Natoli, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Huggett, Councillor Suarez, Councillor Babarowski. Those against? Oh, it's sorry, Councillor Dixon. My apologies. Those against? Councillor Law. Thank you very much, councillors. That concludes that item. I don't believe we have any notices of motion, and nor do we have any petitions. No. So, councillors, I'd like to sincerely thank you for your participation in the debates today, and thank all of the meeting management, well done, and our executive and the CEO. A conclusion to our OM at 12:50, and I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.